and sit down.
Yes, sir, we promised you a great man.
Now I want a nice, clean game. Come on.
That's great.
Some call us the R word.
Yeah, even has moments of integrity.
But this has been awesome, and we should do this again.
You're funny.
Are you not entertained?
ETF murdering people.
Is this not why you were here?
With the plan to exterminate the Jews of Europe.
A radical libertarian.
Things on homosexuality and stuff, or just the petty little things that
I'm gonna hop in here real quick.
Like, fucking yes, obviously I did that. And
Welcome to Fight Club.
This is FSM.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Fight Club, coming at you live here on Free Speech Media Corporation. Sometimes this show is about the fight, sometimes it's a little bit about the club, but tonight it's going to end up being a little bit of both, as we have a great revolving panel of guests on, as well as on-the-ground reporting from a few events around the country, covering the most overproduced WWE match in American history, the presidential election. So we'll hear from experts and personalities from around the country as we watch the results come in on various elections worth watching and ballot initiatives and other things. Some of the key races that we're going to be watching are going to be Lily Tang Williams for House in New Hampshire, Dan Osborne for U.S. Senate in Nebraska, a really strong independent candidate, Michael White for State House in Arkansas, Don Rainwater and Erica Klinich for governor of Indiana and West Virginia. And we'll start bringing these panelists on in just a few seconds. But first, we're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors over at Blood of Tyrants Wine. Now they have brand new energy tea called Liquid Freedom that will have you refreshed and energized to go out and fight for liberty all day long. Or if you're looking for a nice night in while sipping on the blood and tears of your enemies and supporting the destruction of the tyrannical state, look no further than Blood of Tyrants Wine. Choose between a Merlot and a Pinot Grigio, or both, distributed by activists you know and love. Blood of Tyrants Wine is the place to go. Use promo code FSM to get 10% off your first order. Again, that's bloodoftyrants.wine. Click the link in the description and use promo code FSM. But without further ado, we are going to bring out some of our panelists. To start us off, we have, let me get out of here. There we are. Start us off, we have my partner in crime here on FSM, host of Shut the Punk Up, and also the founder of Punks for Liberty and the Libertarian Emo Caucus, soon to be the coolest husband and father ever, Mr. Ben Weir. And also representing the great Liberty homeland of New Hampshire, Maine State Senator, Executive Director of the Free State Project, Mr. Eric Brakey. Welcome back.
I actually resigned my state Senate seat today, so I am now the artist formerly known as Senator Eric Brakey.
All right. Well, congratulations. I still like, because it's you're one of the only elected officials that I can call like a friend. So I don't live in New Hampshire where you guys are just a dime a dozen.
Well, there are actually fewer senators in New Hampshire than in Maine, but a ton of House members. So
true.
True. But yeah, no, I guess if like they call like people, if you're like president of the United States, they call you president forever, even if you're not in there. So you can call me senator if you want to. I suppose that's fine.
All right, there we go. Well, again, welcome back, Senator Ben. Howdy.
I don't know. It keeps breaking up on me. Sorry. I don't know if you guys said anything to me, but you guys were all frozen for a minute there.
We were just talking shit behind your back.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. That emo is so like early 2000s, and anyone who's still into it is totally lame sauce.
Yeah, definitely. We graduated on. Just kidding. No, that's really fucked up to say.
Yeah.
All right, starting it up. See, I told you guys this was going to be a little bit of club, a little bit of fight. So I'll start this off by asking you, Eric, how is the Free State Project contingent of candidates looking so far in this election? Are you excited about your prospects? And Yes, I'll pull up some results here in a second to see.
Yeah, well, it's hard for me to say anything definitively. I mean, to be honest, I've just moved to New Hampshire. As I mentioned, I resigned my seat in the Maine State Senate today so I could register to vote in New Hampshire and cast my first ballot here. But I am such a rookie when it comes to New Hampshire politics overall that I hesitate to make predictions. But what I am hearing is, and what I did see to some degree, is that there were a lot of new voter registrations all over the place in New Hampshire today. And I think maybe this has been repeated around the country. I've heard, but I don't know for certain what to make of that. But some people suggest, I saw someone suggest that Trump does bet, like, is polling 18 points ahead when it comes to unregistered voters. But, who knows if those are the unregistered voters who are actually showing up to register to vote. I do know that what the polymarket like betting trends since results started coming in, like Trump has shot up to like 70% odds of winning. But as far as like New Hampshire specifically, I know we've seen a few districts that have historically been very close districts that one I just heard was like decided by a coin flip 2 years ago and just went 60-40 for kind of the local Liberty Republican House candidate. So, and I'm hearing good things around the state about kind of a lot of the Liberty Republicans I'm hearing from are feeling good that early signs show that voting results coming in are outperforming what they've seen in past years. And considering how close the control of the House of Representatives in New Hampshire is, that's certainly a good thing. We were worried about losing control of the House of Representatives, which, of course, the New Hampshire House of Representatives is like the one legislative body in the country that is definitively like libertarians have a very strong control of, because they are the majority of the majority Republican caucus. So if Democrats manage to take back the House in New Hampshire, that would be a terrible blow. But people seem to feel good that we might be keeping control of it here. So, and maybe even expanding the majority. And I know that there are over 100 Liberty Republicans on the ballot in New Hampshire. I actually think over 120. We'll see how they do tonight. I'm watching that very closely.
I agree. Like, I think we'll probably keep the state house and the state senate here. Federally, I don't really think, like, obviously congressional seats, there's really no chance of us taking either of those. It looks like it seemed like one of them could have been a swing district, but really it would have taken a huge push, and I just don't think it was there. But if we can keep the state house, that would be incredible. I would love to keep like at least a 10 seat advantage if we could. I know this last year I think we only had like 4 or 5. Am I right?
Yeah, it was very close.
Yeah, it was really close to 50-50. But and I say we, talking like as if I'm like a Republican, but my libertarian friends that are Republicans, they are on my side. So that's why I say
we're. For shame.
Yeah, I know. But
the Liberty movement knows no party.
I agree.
I won't give you any shit for it, Brakey, but I'll pick on Weird.
You can give me shit for it all day. I'm an anarchist. I say we because they are like my community. They're my friends, and I was very excited to go out and vote for my friends that were on the ballot in my ward, and to try to get some of them elected in a for the most part, very Democrat leaning district in Manchester, New Hampshire. So, we'll see. Maybe it'll flip. The mayor position flipped as recently as a couple years ago from Democrat to Republican. So it is possible. My ward doesn't look like it's, is likely to swing, but we're going to go for it. We'll see how it goes. It was also, I will say this. It was cool to be able to like wear I have my shirt that's like AOC and Lauren Boebert in lingerie. And I wore that into the election station or a polling station while open carrying in an elementary school. So that was fun. It's always, good to exercise your rights and assert dominance over the progressive parasites that live here. So
I mean, fair enough. I can't believe you wore that shirt to your election center.
Well,
but,
I was worried
also,
that if I wore
can't
one of my
believe-
other shirts that they were going to kick me out, because I have a friend, Bill, who got told he had to remove an article of clothing because it was like a Trump Vans hoodie. They said that it was basically him holding a sign inside of the polling hall, and they don't allow that. So
that is illegal.
Yeah. Electioneering is what they called it.
Yeah, they get very obnoxious about that. That's why you gotta make sure that if you're like handing stuff out at the polls, it's like small enough for the person you hand it to pocket. Because if they're still holding like a big flyer that they have to actually hold and they walk in, they can also get in trouble for it. And there is no quicker way to lose a vote than setting somebody up for a federal crime accidentally.
Was it in New York? Was it in your state where that lady this last week was going to vote early, and they told her she couldn't wear a Trump shirt, so she stripped down to her underwear, and she's like 75-year-old like fat lady. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I did not hear about this story.
Yeah, so she just
Not
like
at
voted
all.
in her underwear. Pretty funny.
That's badass. I love that.
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest thing to see, but I mean, it was cool for her. I'm stoked for her.
Man, speaking of New York, they called it almost as soon as the polls closed.
Well, they're the Empire State. Of course, they're going to vote for the imperial candidate. Everyone, I mean, people say like, oh, we should wait for the votes to come into New York. I mean, maybe we should, but yeah. Is that really going to be a wrong call at the end of the night?
No. I genuinely think Trump, if he had tried, had a shot in 2020 at New York. There was some very weird things happening, but between some of the other crazy political things that have happened in the last 4 years, and the mass exodus of anyone that might have voted for him leaving the state of New York, there's not a chance this time around. We became much bluer in the last 4 years because everyone that cared about having a good place to live has gotten out of here if they could. Also, only 17% of the vote is in, but most of that is from the city. So.
Yeah. I will say I'm seeing reporting from New Hampshire's State House reporter. So someone who I don't think is, I mean, if I were to guess, I don't know this individual, but I probably would imagine kind of a left-lean bias just because he's press, but maybe he's not. I could be wrong. Saying that it's early, but it's hard to see Democrats taking back the New Hampshire House tonight. Republicans have already knocked out 3 vulnerable Democrats in Laconia, Rochester, and Meredith. All 3 were among the must-win districts for Democrats to get to 201 seats. Of course, there's 400 seats in the New Hampshire House, second largest legislative body in the world. Anyway, so that's a good sign for the Free State movement in New Hampshire that we will be in a position to continue advancing liberty policy like defend the guard and school choice and cutting spending and so many other things. I think anyway, so that's some good news.
Oh yeah. Let me see.
Do we want to mention TJ Roberts, who
some of the other New Hampshire
won his House
here.
race in Kentucky?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Well
TJ
done,
Roberts.
Mr. Roberts.
Has he been on your show ever?
I don't think he actually has.
Well, you should invite him on so that you don't have just one former state senator. You'll have a House representative elect of Kentucky on.
There we go. All right. So New Hampshire was. Oh wow. Now it's going to say no data found.
Yeah, your Pornhub tab at the top there, buddy. I'm just kidding.
Damn it.
Just kidding.
Oh.
It doesn't look great.
So with 36% of the expected vote, Harris is currently in the lead.
No
By
surprise.
about 10%.
I've been telling people it's going to be at least 7 or 8% that she ends up winning by, I think. And a lot of the red areas need to be counted still. But like, I honestly, like there was no way New Hampshire was going to be a swing state this year. I am disappointed Lily didn't do better.
Well, this is one of the things that we see a lot in New Hampshire is a tendency for people to vote Democrat in the federal races and Republican in the lower in the more local races. I wonder if it's really just not wanting to have an income tax in the state of New Hampshire and the fear that Democrats will do that if they get control of state government, but for whatever reason they don't like Trump or the federal Republican Party. At least some of the swing voters who are the ones who ultimately decide the outcome on the margins.
That's what I'm worried about right there is the governor race. Overall, we had two horrible candidates running for governor on the major parties. And then, but if Joyce Craig won, that'd be horrible. It is close. Like there's still like a chance that she could win. I mean, if I had to choose one or the other, like gun to my head, gun goes off, but Ayotte is better than Craig. And I would hate to see Craig.
Yeah. I view Ayotte again as a novice to New Hampshire politics. I don't know all the history like some do.
What wasn't she a senator though?
Yeah, she was in Congress. I think Senate or Congress or the House.
Something like that. Yeah.
So she's a neoconservative. She's not someone I am comfortable with in charge of our country's foreign policy. I think that on a state level, she's not going to be helpful on defend the guard.
Mm-mm.
But my biggest concerns with her are more that things won't progress fast enough faster towards liberty than they otherwise could if we had a real liberty governor, but not that things are going to fall backwards. And there's been so much progress made on things like school choice and phasing out all kind of remnants of the income tax in the state and so many liberty policies. So my concern with if Democrats took over was those things are going to roll back. But with Ayotte and Republicans in charge, maybe things won't move forward as quickly as we'd like, but they won't be going backwards.
It'll be better to like get like Republican bills passed for sure, like Liberty Republican bills. My concern right now is that it's just too close to call. And if for some reason Craig does squeak up and get like a small margin over top of Ayotte, then my friend Stephen Villy, who's running for governor, he was one of the first free staters ever. Really awesome dude. I voted for him today. I could see like libertarians getting really, really upset that, Steve was running against this and possibly cost a more friendly candidate the race. Now, like the margin's still friendly in favor of Republicans. So it's not really like up for debate right now, but I'm definitely keeping a close eye on this, especially with only like 30% of the vote counted. And a lot of those southern parts of the state haven't been addressed yet. So, and those ones are mostly blue down south of New Hampshire. So
It is kind of wild to me to see, like, I know how bad Joyce Craig is, even as a New Yorker, just with friends in your state. But to see this be as close and Ayotte being in the lead, comparing,
and the margin literally being
number.
made up by the third party candidate. Like it's been like that all night. That 2% that Steve has, it's been like swinging back and forth, between the two of them, and Steve has covered the margin every time it's flipped. So
yeah, I think we are going to see a decent amount of that tonight, whether it's the governor's races or Oliver Stein Kennedy in the different states for the presidential. In 2020, Joe Jorgensen covered the spread in like 4 out of the 5 crucial swing states at the end of the night. And I don't think we're going to see quite as high of a vote total this year, but I think we might still see a lot of it where at least the third parties combined cover that spread. Not in New York though, because we only have 2 candidates on our ballot. This is I was talking to my father, who's like an unaffiliated, usually votes fairly conservative, but definitely never towing any party line, is never registered with any party. And he came by to help me with some computer stuff before the stream and was just like, it's the first time I've ever walked into a voting booth with no other options on my ballot. There was just Democrats and Republicans. If you even had two choices in the election, we had a couple of not uncontested elections and then a couple of two-way races. Not a single existence of any other voice, just those two. And it's weird because New York, we used to have like 7 or 8 third parties that all had ballot access or would get ballot access within the races by petitioning, or had continuous ballot access that would put up at least a few different candidates here and there. Brock Pierce was on our ballot last time around. Like, there's always been that element, even in New York. And it's
didn't
really,
you guys have
really
like
weird
the
to
Working
see.
Families Party or something like that? That was usually like competing, I guess you could say.
We still have the Working Families and conservative parties, but this year there's a few candidates that the third party chose not to endorse the major party candidate. So like for my state Senate race, I think it was, there was a Democrat, a Republican, and then the Republican again on the conservative line, and no one on the Working Families line. But for the most part, it's a copy paste of the Democrats and the Republicans, because we have fusion voting and you can appear on the ballot more than once.
Oh, yeah.
So sometimes that's cool, sometimes that's obnoxious. It enables the Working Families Party to maintain their ballot access by putting Kamala Harris on their line for president, and then they kind of can put whoever they want below that and actually run some competition. They kind of have a caucus within the state house that is fairly strong, and they have a lot of pull within like the New York City community. And so if a Working Families candidate pisses off the Working Families Party to ingratiate themselves in the Democratic Party, they could still actually like lose their reelection for it. So they've got like a little bit of electoral power, and they're actually the reason that we don't have any other third parties at the moment. When they changed the rules, it was to take out the Working Families Party because they offered their ballot line to a different gubernatorial candidate in 2018, other than the Democratic candidate.
I'm seeing right now that reporter from Fox News, Guy Benson, is saying that Kelly Ayotte is being declared the winner in New Hampshire.
What? It is way too early, is it not?
Seems like it. This is Guy Benson at Fox News.
Let's see.
That is like way too close to call.
Vote in.
Yeah, man, it seems like it to me. I don't know.
That's wild.
That's wild. Yeah. Here, I'm gonna drop this out and go back to just us and bounce around at a couple of other results just to see.
I'm looking at Pennsylvania and Georgia really close.
To me.
Pennsylvania looks like it's gonna stay blue, and Georgia's super close, like super close. But Pennsylvania looks like it stayed blue.
Everyone was saying.
Unfortunately, Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, everyone's saying Pennsylvania is kind of the linchpin. So if that's true, that might be an issue.
I was listening to something the other day, saying, like along the lines of like if the margin one like was one, like they need 270 electoral votes to win. If they got like 268, there's some possibility where if they don't cross some certain margin with a certain state, that because the census was done so incorrectly and it added 5% to certain areas, that one person could be declared the winner when in fact reality is they didn't, based off of real numbers. And I was seeing that if that happened, like it would likely go to the Supreme Court, obviously, and they would have to decide who won the election. But I mean, I'm not trying to get too premature there.
Yeah. I don't know. When we come onto a podcast at 9 p.m. on election night, all we can do is speculate. So, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, you guys have the hard job. The guys taking
you
up.
kidding
the
me? I'm
rear,
gonna sleep
coming
like a
on at,
baby.
midnight. We. Oh man.
Who do you
I'm
got?
not
How long are you
finding
going?
anything. We'll probably go till about midnight, 1 o'clock ish, somewhere in there.
Nice.
We've got some fun guests lined up. Matt Kibbe staying till probably about 11:30 ish. So yeah, we'll keep rocking and rolling, but it's definitely going to be a lot easier to talk about the elections that are already called.
Yeah. Does look like they're saying that Trump actually has a slim lead in Virginia right now with 50% of the votes in.
Really? Aren't they? Isn't that normally like a blue state? Or are they?
Well, yeah, I mean, lately, I mean, of course, they've got a Republican governor right now. So it's been a little swingy lately, but it did shift blue over the last few decades as the suburbs of Washington, D.C. have grown.
Interesting.
So I often speculate that Thomas Jefferson is rolling over in his grave about that deal he cut with Alexander Hamilton to get the nation's capital right there next to Virginia, not imagining that that was going to lead to the swamp controlling his state that he loves. But
yeah.
But you go kind of away from the suburbs of Washington, D.C. into the rest of Virginia, and it's pretty red.
All right. So we have our on the field liaison in the house. So I'm going to switch this around. We're going to go with that. And welcome,
Hi,
Kate. Wait, you're not where you're
Hello,
supposed to be.
everyone.
Hello.
Hi. So we are here at the election night watch party here in Dallas, Texas. And I am with Blood of Tyrants. We are a beverage company with wine and with our energy tea called Liquid Freedom. And everybody needs a little bit more freedom, right?
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it, by the way. The energy drinks are amazing. So
Yes. So our tea is 0 sugar, 0 calories, yerba mate, caffeine. So it's going to give you that nice awake feeling without giving you the crash or the jitters. So if you are looking for that boost in your fight for freedom, you definitely need to pick up a can of Liquid Freedom by Blood of Tyrants. Now, if you are in for the party mood, which we are tonight, Blood of Tyrants is sponsoring the entire watch night party. And we have our Blood of Tyrants and Tears of Tyrants Pinot Grigio as well. And our Blood of Tyrants is a Merlot. So that is what is fueling this party tonight. And I'm having to actually be on the opposite side of things because that is the only way you guys can hear me, because I'm telling you right now, it is loud. It is fun out here. I know I'm in the back, so you're not going to see as much, but around that corner, it is packed with people who are here and who are having a ton of fun, who are here with all of our candidates in Texas, with Chase, and with all the celebrities here that we have here at LP Texas, and with the Libertarian Party. And guys, it's a wild night. It's going to be a lot of fun. Blood of Tyrants has already had our happy hour bash in our suite, and I will be going live later for our Blood of Tyrants after party, so don't miss that.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you, Kate, so much. It looks like you guys are going to be having a lot of fun down there. We've got
We are.
Lars,
We're
I
having
think,
a ton of fun.
is speaking soon.
Like I
And
said,
then
select
Chase-
me everywhere I turn.
yeah, say hi to the pink-haired lady for us.
Yeah. Oh, man. Wonderful. You guys got all the cool peeps down there. But we're going to be here with all the peeps that didn't make it, watching you guys and having fun. And we'll be bringing you back throughout the night, which
Yes, and
looking forward to
hopefully maybe
seeing everybody
I can-
get slowly drunker and drunker.
Oh, yeah, that's totally happening if I have anything to do with it. right. Well, y'all have fun for it too. We miss you all. You should be here with us. But as you see, oh, by the way, again, like I said, celebrities everywhere. This is Jessie Cowart, Vice Chair of LP Texas. She just gave an epic speech earlier that you guys missed. But we have these beautiful, beautiful, well-dressed people here, and you guys are missing out. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to keep you totally up to date with what's happening here at the Election Night Watch Party.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kate. You have fun.
All right.
All right.
Love that. Has she ever tried out to
Love
be
that.
a TV host on E?
I don't know, but she should. I'm glad we got her for this. I hit up Dan Berman, who owns Blood of Tyrants, to see if he wanted to come on and just be on the show. And he's there with her. And so I asked him about kind of doing something like that. And he was like, well, you should have Kate do that. She knows what's going on more than I do. And I was like, yeah, I agree with this decision. But it is looking like a fun time down there in Dallas. But my buddy Lars Mapstead is getting up on the stage here in about 5-10 minutes, I think, and we'll catch his speech and then Chase's a little bit after that, and keep having Kate come on back to keep us updated. Guys, if you are watching this, thanks, first of all, and also make sure that you are checking out these awesome guests and people's their social media, following them, seeing what they're up to. Definitely Ben and Eric are super awesome people. Check out Blood of Tyrants. That link is in the description. And say hi in the comments. Love to know where you're at, where you're watching from, who you think's gonna win. Keep the chat going, and I'll be trying to interact with you guys as much as we can. Ben, tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing, what we're doing with Punks for Liberty, and where you're going with that.
So we just kicked off Punks for Liberty officially within the last week, and it's been on the works for quite a while. But essentially what we're doing is we're trying to bring the liberty movement and the anti-authoritarian music scene together and amplify voices in the music world by some of our favorite artists that are anti-censorship, pro-free speech, pro personal freedom, love guns, all that stuff. We want to amplify their voices because they are currently being very suppressed by a very woke, loud music scene that is trying to cancel everyone at every time they turn their heads. And I'm not sure if you guys can still hear me because it keeps freezing, but
I hear you.
It has been a good time. We have our website up at punksforliberty.org. And we are hoping within the first year to raise a certain amount of money. So if you can help us try to go and get the funds to go out and table at major music festivals and spread the message of liberty to people and meet them where they're at. We're creating a network of those musicians, but it's also a network of fans and people who are, they listen to music, but maybe the music doesn't resonate with their political beliefs or something. So, that's our goal is we just want to be the voice for those people, be a resource for people in that area. But also we want to do some cool, community cleanup events, stuff that would kind of coincide with liberty and all this, working towards certain coalitions for, decriminalization of certain things, but also, suicide prevention and awareness. We do have free Narcan and free drug testing kits to hand out to people who are struggling with addiction or just want to be safe. And yeah, so far our next event is going to be coming up in the next month or so out here in New Hampshire, but planning to do some all over the country. And we're hoping to get that kicked off very, very quickly. So.
Hell fucking yes. I love this, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't have signed on to join it. But I'm see this become a thing. Wow, I froze in the worst face there for a second. I looked like I had Downs and cerebral palsy. But yeah, Punks for Liberty, I think is super awesome. The last time I went to like a punk show, I ended up bumping into the local chapter president for Young Americans for Liberty and helping connect them to someone within the Spike Cohen team to try to set up a shooting event with their chapter and Spike, and bumped into a couple of other like awesome Liberty people just because I was wearing a simple taxation is theft hat, which I do most of the time if I'm going out in public, especially with a group of libertarians, because it's a conversation piece. It works. But
music's not always. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be political, right? Like music is usually, at least for somewhat, like it impacts the culture for sure. It can be political, especially punk rock. But really, like even if it's just a way for Liberty people to get together and to be together, I think that like Liberty people in numbers is always, it makes us all stronger and better people. So, obviously, going and starting state affiliate chapters for Punks for Liberty is a goal for us. And we'd like to, see some people like just going out to shows and having a good time together, not necessarily just doing work, but going out and having fun and just connecting with other Liberty people.
Hell yeah. I think that it's something that a lot of the other political movements actually do is going out and pounding pavement, and we sometimes don't match their level of dedication to that. And I think that has genuinely changed over the last few years between things like the Free State Project in New Hampshire, where it's giving enough legitimate results to actually galvanize people to pound the pavement and elect good Liberty Republicans to their state house and actually kind of care again. And some other movements in other states like Indiana and Georgia, where they've really actually been out there doing cool things. Texas, the Liberty movement as a whole, I think, is starting to kind of do a little bit more of that. And that's exciting. And I'm really excited about combining that with music because it's awesome. And like you said, it doesn't have to be political, but at the end of the day, it kind of is.
I love karaoke night personally.
Right? Yeah, it was fun. We had a punk rock karaoke here just I feel like it was a couple weeks ago. It was at the end of August, and it was at the Shell here in New Hampshire, and it was a pretty good turnout. Everyone had a really good time. Just a bunch of Liberty people connecting, singing their favorite punk rock songs, and enjoying each other's company. So
I appreciate that Ben gave me wide latitude on my song choices. I didn't know many punk rock songs, so though I've been practicing a few since then that I think maybe a little closer to the genre.
Awesome. I want to see some some Five Finger Death Punch. No, I don't sing Five Finger Death Punch. I hate that band, but
I don't know that it would qualify exactly, but I've gotten pretty good at War Pigs and karaoke. So maybe
there you go.
A little closer. I was rocking Space Oddity by David Bowie, which is kind of pretty far outside the genre for punk rock, but Ben gave me a pass.
It's got the spirit though, right? Like the punk rock like ethos almost in a way.
All right.
So
you're a better judge of that than me. So
I'm just being very nice. I'm very flexible with my punk rock karaoke. So
my wife is much more.
People will call me a poser.
So
I mean, you are. Are you really punk rock if you're not getting called a poser, though, is the question.
Yeah, you have a point.
Are you really a libertarian if no one's accused you of not being one? Right?
True.
Man, I'm trying to like keep up with what's going on in the real world, and it is nuts, dude. Like everything's so close, it looks like.
I'm looking at the New York Times right now, So right now, according to them, it currently stands at Kamala Harris has 99 electoral votes. Trump has 178. And the New York Times is saying that they see a 67% chance of victory for Donald Trump.
The New York Times said that?
Yeah.
Damn it. I'm going to owe Brandy money.
And
that going on.
Looking at some of the kind of key swing states, they are saying that Georgia looks like it's leaning Trump. North Carolina looks like it's leaning Trump. Michigan, Kamala Harris has a lead, but they're still ranking it a toss-up as well as Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. I would imagine perhaps they're looking at some of the regions where votes have come in from, perhaps are more naturally Democratic leaning regions, and they're still waiting for votes to come in from more conservative regions. So they're expecting it to balance out a bit. And Arizona and Nevada, key swing states on the West Coast, nothing's come in yet. I imagine their polls might still be open.
Yeah, they don't close until, I think, 11 Eastern, both of those states. Actually, it'll tell me right here.
Either way, I'm very excited to wake up tomorrow and see who won, and hear all the rees. It's going to be great.
I just want to make CNN cry again.
That'd be great. Honestly, like I'm gonna kind of laugh if whoever's crying. I'm gonna laugh at everybody. So
I feel like that should have been the Trump slogan: "Make CNN cry again." That would have been enough for me.
Yeah, the whole like "Make America Healthy Again" thing, it just doesn't have the same kick,
Well, but it does for that Bobby Kennedy coalition that he brought in to his group. So,
that was definitely a wild thing that happened this year. I was interested to see that kind of coalition start to build around RFK before he even endorsed Trump. You had the like Russell Brands of the world that were very much watching RFK closely, and it was definitely like, I don't know, the thing that we as liberty people have kind of been, at least most of us, hoping happens since this kind of dawn of the new age media and it becoming more popular than the old school media. Like eventually it has to reach a tipping point where we get all these guys together, they push a candidate, and we can actually beat out the regular media. Unfortunately, it turned out to where they all kind of coalesced around somebody that the biggest media corporation was already pushing. But it's definitely.
Wait, I'm trying to understand what's the biggest media corporation that's pushing Trump?
Fox.
In this case? Fox. I mean, I don't know.
Is objectively the largest because it kind of has a monopoly on a demographic where, I mean, not a true monopoly, but they have a much larger market share of the conservatives than any of the other medias do of the liberal side of things.
I guess I kind of felt like, though, that Fox, I kind of feel like this is more of a product of Fox knowing their audience and knowing that to keep their audience, they have to.
I don't necessarily mean biggest there as an insult, just a descriptor, because just that it is one of the old school media duopoly, kind of candidates. Honestly, I respect Fox for being able to crush its competition every time any like Newsmax or anything like that tries to creep up. They've been pretty consistent at just being like, nope, we are the conservative media. We'll even make other stations branch off from us to just keep that monopoly. I respect it as a business tactic.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make is I don't think that the leadership at Fox News really are the biggest Trump fans, and I think that we saw this like especially like early on in the process. I think we saw this with them like kicking Tucker Carlson off and trying to block him from even being able to speak during this election cycle. I think that they know their audience, and they know that to keep their audience they have to. And maybe some of the hosts are sincere, but I don't know. I haven't really been watching Fox. I turned off Fox News a long time ago. So,
yeah, I
Well-
definitely will agree with you there. I don't think the leadership at Fox are big Trump fans, or at least they've not acted like one.
yeah.
Well, hey, I got to step off, man. But thanks for having me up here, and have a fun rest of the stream. Hope you guys all get a chance to also sleep like a baby tonight, and remember that all government is illegitimate. So that's all I have to say.
What about self-governance? Self-governance,
Still,
is that illegitimate?
I can roll myself.
All
but
right. So self-governance is the one legitimate form of governance.
Not all governance is illegitimate. All government.
Just government. Yes.
Exactly. There's a difference.
You guys have a great night. All right.
All right. Thank you, Sven.
Yeah.
All right. Get out of here. There we go. I'm gonna pull some of these results back up. We're gonna go back to New Hampshire because I'm curious if they've called it yet. I don't think they've called it yet, but I think it's getting closer.
What calling what?
New Hampshire. I can figure out how to make it do that. There we go. We're still only at 42%. But still Harris with a solid lead. And still Craig losing as she deserves.
It is worth noting that New Hampshire was not a state that received a lot of attention from the Trump campaign until the very end. They did a rally there because there was some polling that came out suggesting New Hampshire was in the toss-up column, and that was a surprise to a lot of folks. So I think the fact that New Hampshire even came into contention at the end is a sign of progress and kind of the good work that the Free State Project is doing to make the state less blue and more liberty. But it is a project, and there's a lot of work ahead to do. We'll see how things turn out tonight. We don't know necessarily the geographic breakdown of where. Well, maybe we do know to some degree the geographic breakdown of where the reporting's coming out of, but.
Yeah, I think it is very interesting as someone who's spent a good amount of time in New Hampshire and all of New Hampshire, especially when I was there on the Tulsi Gabbard campaign. I literally went to every single county in the state at least twice. And in no part of New Hampshire, not even really Nashua or Manchester or Concord, no part of New Hampshire do I feel like I'm in a Democratic state. It's very, especially like as a New Yorker who I even grew up in the red area of New York. Manchester, New Hampshire feels more Republican, country conservative than Oswego, where I live right now, which is super red actually in its voting, but just because of the state itself and the years and years of government tyranny that's kind of deteriorated any of our freedoms here in New York. I don't know. It's just a very weird feeling to then see this map and be like, that's still.
Are you still in New York?
Blue? I am, unfortunately.
Why haven't you moved to New Hampshire?
So we're looking at Texas is the goal. I actually said in a group chat earlier today, summers in New Hampshire and winters in Texas. That's the goal.
No, I will say this to you, David. I don't want to make any assumptions, but I imagine that cannabis is something that is valuable to you. And in Texas, I was down in Texas for a year and a half, and I don't admit on public anything to ever using cannabis, but people who I know who do use cannabis found it very difficult to get cannabis in a legal fashion where you know the product that you're getting in Texas. But New Hampshire, while it's not legal in New Hampshire yet, you're literally surrounded on all borders by states where it is legal. And I know for people who I know who live in the part of New Hampshire that's like right on the border with Maine, where some of the really great stuff is, thanks to the work that I did, liberalizing or building a free market system around our medical program. it's fairly easy to get access to these things. So David, I'm just making a pitch to you.
I will say Maine is one of my favorite states to shop around in. I also, another really high contender is Oklahoma with their medical program, which is not quite as close, but at least, what was I looking for? Maine. At least within a drivable distance from Austin, and at least it's decriminalized in Austin. So I don't know. I'm hoping to see legislation change in both states fairly soon. I don't know if Texas ever will, but I don't know. Depending on how tonight goes, Harris promised to legalize it within the first week. So federally, we'll see how that goes.
I doubt it.
Trump is currently winning Maine overall, as expected, and then they're going to split the districts.
Well, it's actually not expected for him to win Maine overall.
Is it not?
No. No. If he maintains a lead statewide, that would be a real coup. He has won.
Oh yeah, there's
Maine,
only 5%.
Yeah, Maine splits its electoral votes, right, like Nebraska does, and with 2 congressional districts, the person who wins statewide gets 2 electoral votes, and then you get +1 for each congressional district that you win. So Trump has in 2016 and 20 won the 2nd district, the very rural district. It's like 80% of the geography of the state. And so he got 1 of the 4 electoral votes in both elections. If he were to win statewide, which would be a surprise, I think a good surprise, that would be quite the coup. We'll see.
Okay, fair enough. I should have known better on that one. I don't know. Again, it's one of those.
I can tell you a lot more about Maine
just
politics than give you intricacies on New Hampshire politics. I'm still learning New Hampshire, but I'm a pretty seasoned expert on Maine politics.
Fair enough. I guess definitely being a New Yorker definitely gave me a poisoned view of what a blue state could be, I guess. Like there's still there. I don't know.
The worst kind of blue state where you don't even get the personal freedoms.
Yeah. But I think it speaks to some of the, like, not all of the people in a specific block are the same. And definitely for the people around the country watching who are looking at other states and going, how could that whole state go one way or the other? The Democrats in New Hampshire are a different breed of human than the Democrats in New York City, for the most part. Obviously, there's some super crazy leftists, but you have people that care about their guns, people that care about their economic freedoms, people that actually are super active in their community in a real way, in a way that we don't see even in the red areas in a lot of other states. So I don't know, just keep an open mind, y'all. There's some connections to be found and some crossover. And what I'm really interested to see tonight is the differences between the presidential election results and then like the Senate or gubernatorial results in that same state. Because every state has had at least almost 5 to 10% of a differential in those races. That means that there are actually still some people out there who probably today decided who they were voting for between Trump and Biden or Harris.
Yeah, well, I think, those of us who are weird, like you and me, and I'm sure your audience, like we think about politics a lot more than the average person. Like we got we oftentimes have our sides picked out, like, very early in the process, but most people are just going about their lives. They're not actively thinking about this. And election day, it's like a test. It's like, oh shit, that thing is due tomorrow. and people, it's really kind of the last 3 weeks where kind of the vast bulk of people start paying attention and realize that they need to make a decision there. So, yeah. Oh, the blessings of being normal. How I wish I didn't have to think about politics all the time.
Speaking of states that split their votes, Nebraska, they called it for Trump, even though he's losing overall, which is really amusing to me. But the real news is Dan Osborne for Senate is in the lead strongly at 54% of the expected vote in already as an independent candidate who kind of came out of nowhere in this election cycle. And like, this is going to be a big upset if he maintains that lead for the rest of the day. And there has been plenty of polling within the last couple of weeks to suggest that he might. And we might actually have another independent in the United States Senate that might, for the first time, be actually kind of an independent and not just a Democrat who doesn't run under the party line for whatever reason. Cough.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that race. This is the first time hearing about it.
I honestly just got clued into it maybe about a week and a half ago in one of my group chats that is mostly it's just a bunch of like kind of independent people. A lot of the people that went to like the independent national convention in Austin a year or two ago, and like just a lot of them went RFK early on, and then not all of them finished up into the Trump with RFK. And almost all of my independent friends, that like the operatives that I know that actually were out there looking for something similar to like a Tulsi Yang, something like that they've been working on for the last few years, went to Nebraska for the last week and a half. And this would be a fun race to see stay like that. But it is 10 p.m. and we have some new people joining us.
All right. Well, then I'll say hi to them, and then I'll hop off and let you all talk.
All right. Sounds good. So first up, we have the communications director for LP National, also the co-founder of Lions of Liberty Network, where he co-hosts Mean Age Daydream, the always hilarious Brian McWilliams.
What's happening, gentlemen? Eric, always good to see you, man. You're gonna leave? I jump on and you're gonna leave me with this Amish for Trump-looking motherfucker over here?
I heard you were coming. I thought, oh, Brian McWilliams. Geez, I don't want to see that guy. No,
I don't blame you. People see enough of me. You can see me on like one of those random photos from years ago, and I never change appearance-wise because I've been bald for so long. You see me once, you see me 1,000 times. There's no point in seeing me now.
No, it's good to see you, Brian. It's been. I feel like I haven't connected with you since the LP National Convention.
Yeah, that's right. We were, you and I took an Uber over to see Dave's Part of the Problem live.
And then I hopped out halfway because we realized I couldn't get a ticket because it was sold out.
I forgot. That's right.
Wonderful.
And that ride took forever to get. I don't know why. It was like a mile away. It took me 30 minutes to get there. I was losing my mind.
Yeah. By the way, I do enjoy the kind of the creativity you've been bringing to the LP National Twitter page. And trying to remember, I don't know, were you saying something nice about Ron Paul or something at one point? Or I don't remember.
We like Ron Paul. He's a good man. Yeah. Oh yeah. You and I were getting into it with somebody about
some person. I was just saying how much I just think that the LP National Twitter page has improved from the days where like there were posts of like I just remember 2016. I'll never forget this because it's just like it got me so angry. Like someone posted this thing of no more Clintons, no more Bushes, no more Pauls. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? No more Pauls. Like the whole reason the Liberty movement is like grown to the level it is because of Ron Paul. Like I get this kind of left-right divide within the. I mean, I'm a big tent libertarian. I'm for everyone, I just like you. I don't know. You disrespect Ron Paul, you disrespect me. Them's fighting words.
Absolutely.
Amen
Also,
to that.
I mean,
All right.
I was talking to Angela yesterday about like, look, we're at what might actually be, regardless of how Chase does. Hopefully he does well, but I think we all knew going into this is basically a dead man walking style election, right? I mean, it was inevitably going to be one of the lower turnouts for our candidate just because people are so divided in their camps over Trump or anti-Trump, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate them stepping into the breach, but Ron Paul, should Trump get in there now? Ron Paul is out talking about joining Elon Musk, joining the government under the Department of Government Efficiency. You've got Elon Musk retweeting all sorts of libertarian, accounts. He's retweeting Hayek. He's retweeting Ron Paul. Ron Paul is going to have Elon Musk on the Ron Paul Liberty Report. I don't know if you saw that. That just got confirmed today on Twitter. I mean, Ron Paul, he is our greatest hope. It's amazing. Ron Paul got me into the movement. He has now come full circle to become once again the greatest hope for liberty in our lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. What can't this man do?
If Elon wants to cut $2 trillion out of the federal budget, then the place to start is with Ron Paul's plan from 2012 to cut $1 trillion out of the federal budget by cutting 5 departments. And I bet you that might get you to $2 trillion today based on how much the government has grown. But hey, David, I feel like we just hijacked your podcast stream, and I'm gonna hop off and leave you with Brian. Thanks for having me on. Good talking.
You're good.
And
thanks for coming on, Eric.
Yeah, good to see you both, and thank you to your audience for listening to us yak.
Yeah, you too, man. Having a good one. And David, good to see you, sir. As I mentioned, you're looking very Amish. And I do appreciate you go out of your way to host this stream, and you have the worst internet connection of any guest.
I think it's because I'm just trying to do too much. But we have joining us now, coming from the great state of North Carolina, my former boss and communications director for the Lars Mapstead campaign, and also founder of Next Level Profits, Mr. Dan Johnson. Welcome to the show.
Hello, Brian. Long time no chat.
I know, man. Good to see you. Good to see you. By the way, as a man who's close to Lars, what has Lars been up to these last few months? Just rolling in dough, or has he been out there actively libertarianing?
Enjoying not politics.
Lars
and I chatted this week, and we were joking that we both still haven't recovered from the campaign. That was such a hard push. I mean, any campaign is, but particularly a campaign like that was just intense. And he and I are both. He's enjoying his R&R. He's been racing his cars and doing that, and I've been working in the nonprofit space, but enjoying somewhat of an R&R from politics, particularly in an election cycle where libertarians are more or less ignored. It's one of those, the voters are coming back home to roost to the big parties, and the protest vote was cool, but that was several years ago. Are the Lars campaign is an example of this. Politics is so much about timing. You have to pick the right issue that the voters care about with the right candidate driving that issue, and timing matters more than just about anything. If Donald Trump ran in 2008, and he did, actually. He ran a couple times before then. Donald Trump has run before, not as a major party candidate. But if Donald Trump ran in 2008, you'd just be like, okay, cool, whatever. I mean, sucks to be him or whatever. But by the time he ran, everybody was so angry at DC that seeing somebody with a suit on spit in their face was just like, oh, okay, cool. And then seeing someone with a suit on be like, you guys shouldn't have gone to Iraq, and all the Republicans, implode and lose their minds at the debate, all about timing. And right now, man, the timing is not for libertarian politics. The timing is seed planting.
Exactly. That's what I was saying, man. Right before you joined, I don't know if you were in the backcast area or not. I was saying, this is one of those election cycles where I was glad to see, and Lars ran a good, obviously ran it, went around, did it. I saw you guys, you and I obviously spoke about the campaign. it was like you were going to be cannon fodder no matter what. There was just no point to it. And that's why I was actually happy that Dave Smith had dropped out. And some people had said, you're asking just to be beaten. And not just in the election, but just beaten over the head. I mean, beaten down, because I know just from being the comms director for the LNC, without any connection to RFK or Trump or something, nobody gives a damn about what we're doing, flat out. And I've been trying. This isn't the cycle. People are so divided. And you see this happening even with libertarians going and voting for Trump. And yes, obviously he's made some promises to us about Ross Ulbricht and about putting a libertarian in his cabinet. Ron Paul, now possibly joining Elon Musk if he wins. Huge. But people are convinced that this is the election of our lifetime. I'm convinced of it, frankly. I don't blame people for what they're doing, and nor do I really blame the media, because the public is in a frenzy. So it's hard to argue.
Oh, the public is. I mean, the culture this is deeper than politics. It was deeper than politics a little bit in 2016. It was a little bit deeper than politics in 2020. I mean, Donald Trump, in many ways, being the voice of kind of the marginalized groups in politics and the rural America and stuff like that, brought forth a really strong polarization, because he brought those values that those people hold back to the forefront. And there is a really strong debate. I mean, if there's anything we're seeing with the election results tonight, and it's, if you're in politics, this is like the Super Bowl. This is like, you're watching the numbers come in, or you're like, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, so we're finally winning.
Hey,
so,
lucky you. I'm an Eagles
So,
fan.
so you're
don't worry,
used
we'll
to just
see each other
getting
soon.
nothing on the big night.
Detroit Lions fan, libertarian. I mean, I'm just used to losing all the time. But,
God, man.
but like, if there's one thing we're seeing out of these election night results, it is the deepening partisanship in this country. And that if there is a, kind of a reduction in rhetoric or whatever, I said this in the North Carolina Libertarian newsletter, which I think 3 people read, but whatever. I said it in there that this is a ceasefire if there is one, because those deeper cultural divides haven't been addressed. I don't know if they can, honestly, at this point. I don't know if, I'm not sure I would go so far as national divorce or anything like that, but I don't know if the deep belief in what the country should be and what the country should look like is all that resolvable between the two sides. And I don't know.
I think there might be more area there for optimism than you want to get credit for. And one of the things that gives me that hope is seeing the amount of young men leaving the Democrat Party, because they're not necessarily going to the GOP. And I think that legitimately you see the enthusiasm for, Joe Rogan and kind of a, anti-government rhetoric on his show. You see the enthusiasm for Elon Musk and how much people have gotten behind reigning in the government, taking back, opportunity, people getting pissed off about inflation, people getting furious about the war spending. I think there is a growing libertarian movement, especially with Elon Musk buying X, like we've never seen before. And I think that that's coalescing more than ever from both sides of the coin. And now that's not reflected in the election right now, because it is what it is, this cycle. But I think next cycle and moving forward, there's a real opportunity there. And I think that the country's actually becoming more united around this is getting fucked and we are getting fucked than it's ever been before. Other than maybe the Vietnam War, right? When you've got people being sent off to die for no good reason. I think other than that war, people are coming around to it because it's just too hard. It's too hard on everybody. So that to me gives a lot of optimism. And while there's a huge divide, there's certain people that are never going to recover from, the brainwashing and the echo chambers they live in. I think that a lot of people are escaping, especially the younger generation. And that's who you have to target.
Well, and it might be a example of, after it was either World War I or World War II, kind of all of the liberal economists got together and they were like, so the war is about to end. A whole lot of people just died. What is the one victory? And there were some economists in the FDR administration who were on this, and the fledgling think tanks of the time. They're like, what is the big victory we want? And they're all like, free trade. If we can get free trade throughout the world, then we could actually put a pause to or stop most world wars. And if you look at like, you want to talk about victories other than slavery, the most global victory.
A victory for all of us. We can agree to that.
Right. But like, other than that, the most global victory for kind of a libertarian-esque policy has been free trade all across the board. And, it might be that because there's so much skepticism in the old left, and because there's so much skepticism now on the right toward, just bombing every single country we come across because there are brown people in it and they need freedom, that there might be an opportunity here to just make that the standard policy of the parties of the country. Is just don't go intervene. If we can get the anti-war left and the anti-war right, that would be a huge victory. Like if you have free trade, you have the end of slavery, and you have the end of global war as a general concept. Wow. There's lots of other things to work on, but that would be huge.
Well, I think also, and
Real
by the way,
quick,
David,
I
I'll say, David, we're going to keep
I stopped glitching, and I think I can actually talk now. My computer is not liking how many tabs I'm running and how many election results I'm watching. But as the Libertarian Christian Institute wraps up their own coverage, we're going to steal one of their hosts for ourselves. And joining now, we have host of Biblical Anarchy and the Green Room, and my friend, Mr. Jacob Daniel Winnograd, the only good cop in town.
The good cop. I like that as a nickname.
Good cop.
Yeah, if I didn't have Biblical Anarchy,
all cops are bastards except for him.
Oh, there you go.
Well, don't
a cab JW.
The night is that rolls right off the tongue, right? It's funny. Completely off topic to the election, but Dan, you were bringing up being a Detroit Lions fan. It's funny. So I was on a friend's podcast. I'll plug his show. It's Silver Screen Biases with my good friend Nelson, and he basically just has people on and they just talk about like different movies that are in like the top 250 on IMDb. And I went on to talk about Gran Torino, and I was like, this movie does a good job at selling every plot point except the one where the son calls the dad to ask for Detroit Lions season tickets. Because that movie was released in 2000. that movie was released in 2008, and he was like, "What was the Lions' record in 2008?" I was like, 0-16. I'm not a Lions fan, but I know that because it's only happened like twice.
Maybe that's like a test of your father's love. If you call your dad and ask him for Lions tickets and he says yes, then you know that either he's not your real father or he doesn't love you.
Right?
Perfect litmus test.
So true.
I think it's also, you can extend that to theology. I think God just doesn't love Detroit. It's like the modern day Sodom and Gomorrah. Who was it? What celebrity said we're going to make the whole country like Detroit? Do you guys remember who that was?
I thought Donald Trump just gave a speech fairly similar to that, threatening that the country was going to go and become like Detroit if he didn't get elected. Right? Was it?
That was a reaction to somebody else's speech. That
Lizzo.
Was it Cardi B or Lizzo?
It was Lizzo.
Okay.
Thin Lizzo or fat Lizzo? Because she's thinner now. By the way, how unbelievably stupid is it? Cardi B, of all people, is out there speaking, quote unquote, for Kamala Harris. You can't understand what she's saying. She sounds like like she's got the downs. I mean, she doesn't sound like a person that is normal. And this is who they're trotting out there. I get it.
I have been having worse than
so much
Harris
fun
talking.
I mean, but it is somehow. But I have been having so much fun on Twitter over the last 3 or 4 days since Cardi B started going around with Harris and doing all of these events and posting all this shit, because she's been all over Twitter, and my algorithm was like, "Oh, you keep responding to her. Let me show you everything she posts for the next 7 days." And I have been just harassing the fuck out of Democratic voters.
Good. I've been harassing the heck out of MAGA voters, even though I voted for Trump, because they don't realize that just because I voted for Trump doesn't mean I'm on their team.
Right.
Been very insistent on reminding them of that. Like, oh, we're saving the country. Welcome to the movement. I was like, No. That's not what's happening here.
Well, I voted for Chase. I know David voted for Chase. Dan, which way do you go?
I'm Chase. At the very least, libertarians need fucking ballot access. So
yeah, I know. We're gonna.
Honestly, this election is going to be somewhat embarrassing because I think Jill Stein, the pot smoking grandma of the Green Party, she raised 5 times more than we did, and I think she might actually beat us in vote total.
I think she might as well. I mean, well, look, we know a lot of libertarians. We were just talking about it. A lot of libertarians had gone for Trump, and wait,
I was holding out,
and they went for Trump despite the speech he gave at a libertarian convention.
I know it was contentious. I was boggled in my brain by his speech, and like we've been working with the Trump team to set it up and get all the crap arranged for it, and I was like, and they knew the topics ahead of time. We're like, here's the top 10 here's the top 10 topics the libertarians want you to talk about. We addressed like 2 of them and then just yelled at people about crap the rest of the time and pissed them off. I was like,
I think we have audio finally from Dallas, so we're gonna listen to I think what's left of Chase's speech. I don't know how much longer we have. This has been finicky all night.
Wait for people who've been pulling a lever for 20 years and convince them to come out of the two-party system. We have to hit them in their first election. We have to speak to their values immediately so they know the Libertarian Party is there for them in this election and every election going forward. I want to speak to 2 more quick things about the nature of this campaign. I am a millennial. I'm somebody who is younger, who can communicate those values, and I grew up in the War on Terror years. I have grown up knowing that both the Republican and the Democratic Party have not been there for me. They have robbed me of my wealth. They have robbed my generation of the ability for us to buy a home, raise a family, and have true prosperity. And we need to hold them accountable for that. And as a millennial candidate, I was proud to speak to the fact that the next generation should not have to suffer the way my generation did under the tyranny of the two-party system. And I want to speak to this. To those who may think it's wrong or it's identity politics to be a gay candidate for president, you could not be more wrong. I spoke to a man named Marshall, who was a founding member of the Libertarian Party in Texas. And he just told me a story about how back in the day, right after Stonewall, before there was even a Libertarian Party, libertarians gathered together alongside activists fighting against police brutality in Hollywood, California. Because people were sick and tired of living as their authentic selves and facing the force and violence of government. That is libertarianism. If you're not familiar with why the gay rights movement got started, it's because there was a little bar in Greenwich Village, New York, called the Stonewall Inn. And it's where LGBTQ people could carve out their little piece of America for themselves, where they could feel comfortable being themselves, living as their authentic self, until the government raided that building and started arresting people for being who they were, for living their authentic lives in peace. And it was powerful fighters for liberty, years before we had a Libertarian Party, that stood up and said, no more. That is the spirit that inspires me as an LGBTQ libertarian. And I will never, ever apologize for that. I will never, ever apologize for trying to bring more LGBTQ people into this movement, because they deserve the same inherent liberty as anyone else. And so what comes next for me starting tomorrow, win, lose, or draw, no matter the vote totals, I'm going to get up, I'm going to get to work, and I'm going to help organize for the Libertarian Party. And I encourage everyone who's watching this, everyone who's listening, to have the same mindset. Do not give up. Do not allow the two-party system to erase the powerful message of liberty from our political landscape. Be strong, be principled, and be ready to fight. And I will be ready to fight alongside each and every one of you. I want our party to be a stronger party. And so I'm asking that each and every one of you, as we go to state conventions and national conventions and look to the direction of our party, we want to be professional, We want it to be ethical, and we want it to grow. That's my commitment to this party. That is my commitment to each and every one of you, is that the fight for liberty does not end today. My fight is just getting started. And I hope it is for each and every one. Whether it's the wars, whether it's the debt, whether it's the violence, whether it's the regulation, whether it's anything that the government is doing to attack us, I am with you. But I'm going to end tonight with the same thing that I say to each and every time I speak to a crowd. To each and every one of you, to those you know, to those you love, to those you meet every day, I wish all of you a life of peace, love, and liberty. Thank you.
I end every one of my speeches in a totally different way. You're muted, David. Am I the only one talking? There we go. David's got his mic on mute. I end all my speeches differently than he does. I end every one of my speeches with, I'm in room, insert, number here, knock on the door anytime after 2 a.m. and I'll be naked. That's how I end every political speech.
It's a warning.
Well,
how many dudes have knocked on your door?
I mean, none that weren't dressed in furry costumes.
Why do you assume it's only dudes?
Thank you.
I mean, have you met Brian?
It could be they, thems.
Well, as Chase said, at least like 10 times, I think. Brian, we support you being your authentic self.
Yeah. Thank you, Jake.
You can end your speeches however you want to end them.
Thank you.
As long as you are dressed until you get to your hotel room, you can end your speeches. However,
I mean, there's something to be said for just stripping off right there and just yelling, "We're going streaking and jumping in the hotel pool." I mean, we got nothing to lose at this point. The ballots are cast, man. Let's go. It's time to rock and roll. Chase is going to be the new naked guy at the Libertarian Convention. That's my prediction.
I will, if nobody else is going to comment on that video, I will throw out one comment. As someone who's been in the Libertarian Party such a long time, I like the fact that he's sticking around, because our candidates don't do that. For as much as he had the odds against him, as much as he was more of an internal party fighting candidate than a national candidate ready for the public stage. He's staying. And so far, that has not been the case with our candidates. They bring their supporters in. They get disappointed that they didn't change the world in 18 months, and then they leave and drag most of them with them. I'll give them props for staying. That means a lot, because at the end of the day, politics, and this is why libertarians suck at it, politics is a lot about power. I've done a lot of coalition building and a lot of issue building in politics. And if you are the weak one in that coalition, and you don't have your own base that you bring to the table, and you don't have your own strengths that you bring to the table there, you'll get lip service, and that's it. The people will trot you out as, look, we have these people on the coalition. Then when the brass tacks comes down, it's about who has a voter base, who has an actual base to bring to the table. And we've got to build that. And right now we don't have it.
Well, what's interesting, I see on the counterpoint to that, Donald Trump clearly wooed our base. He came to the convention and he gave a speech. And like we said, it wasn't the speech I would have given, but it clearly did resonate with a good number of people. And then the building on top of that with the Ron Paul.
We need Bitcoin made in America. You know that.
No, obviously. Where else? There's not electricity anywhere else. That's why we need cheap, abundant power for the Bitcoins of America. No, but I mean, look, he came to us because, as you and I were talking about earlier, libertarianism, while people might not be registered, is a vastly growing faction of the country. And Trump spoke to us for a reason, as did RFK Jr., because they see that this is the area to be captured. This is what is going to sway voters. And look, if he wins, if Trump does win, a large portion of that actually might be libertarians, because Chase Oliver could have gotten 4% in maybe, let's say, a regular race. Gary Johnson pulled a high watermark. I think it was 3%. Chase was actually polling as high as 5% in some swing states earlier in the convention or in the campaign. In a normal year, what does that equate to as far as votes? I mean, a few million at least will go for the third party candidate, libertarian candidate. This year, you're not seeing it. Yeah. I doubt many of them are going for Harris. I know some people are psychopaths, but I think the majority is going for Trump. And so that shows
Brian, some people care about democracy. Okay. Vote to save democracy.
I do want to point out real quick that with 55% of the expected vote in, Trump is pulling ahead in Pennsylvania. Which
yeah, I saw that. My liberal PA buddy is shitting his pants right now.
Nice. And
yeah,
we can go back.
Look,
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, look at what's going to happen here. If Trump wins, let's just say if Trump wins, we don't know what shenanigans might happen, might occur. If Trump wins, we're actually in a vastly stronger position as libertarians and as a party to have influence on a president, on a policy than we've ever had in the history, because Angela McArdle has Donald Trump's phone number, texts with Donald Trump, has meetings with Donald Trump, introduces him to people like Ron Paul and others. I mean, if you want libertarian influence, this is it. This is literally it. And if not Trump, the wider GOP, we don't have influence with. We have influence with Trump because he's not part of the wider GOP. So, I mean, there's a lot to be excited about if Trump does pull this thing out.
Yeah.
So, what's
all right. So we're going to go real quick. I'm going to hit you off real quick, Jacob. And because we're going to go to our live on the field reporter in Dallas. We're going to bring Kate back up to the screen. And I'm going to bring you guys out for a second.
Hello.
Tell me about what's going on.
So we just got done. Yeah, I know. I can't hear you, David. Sorry. So I'm just gonna word vomit. Right now I have Whitney Villieu, former LP National Chair and LP Texas Chair. She is one of my very dear friends. Again, like I said, celebrities all over tonight. But we just got done hearing some amazing speeches by Lars Mapstead and Mike Tremont, and of course, our candidate of the hour, Chase Oliver. And one of the things that he touched on his speeches or his speech was being a millennial, being young, and I absolutely feel that because I am only, I think, 6 months younger than Chase. And we've had the struggle of living our entire lives under war and not being able to live free the way we want to as parents, as entrepreneurs, as anybody who wants to live our lives free of government intrusion. And then another thing was how tomorrow is day zero. We start over. Today is day zero. We start over, and the fight of liberty starts now. And we cannot stop the fight. And that has really, that right there was the one thing that everybody cheered for, was the fight starts today. It didn't end today. It starts today. And of course, as you know, I'm going to lift this up a little bit. And the party continues. Lots of dancing, lots of celebration, lots of conversations. Who's to say what those conversations are about? But obviously, they are all about fighting for liberty, what we can do better, what worked for us, and what we can spread to the rest of the people, the rest of the candidates. And it's been an amazing night with amazing people. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm sorry you guys can't be here. It has been absolutely wonderful. But I am going to have to cut this short because as one of the sponsors of Blood of Tyrants, we are about to have to raffle off of our gifts to the people who are here. And so I'm about to be called up on stage, probably, I think, right now as they're saying it.
Oh, yeah.
So,
nice.
Thank you guys for coming on. I'll see you guys in an hour in the VIP suite, which is the Blood of Tyrants suite. and you guys will get to see all the special people that we are going to be hanging out with.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kate. Enjoy your time. All right. We're going to bring the guys back up here. And we have a new guest joining us. The founder of Free the People and just a wonderful, wonderful person and the owner of the Liberty Movement's greatest mustache, the one and only Matt Kibbe. Welcome to the fight.
Yeah. It's what I have, so that's what I bring to the table.
I love it. All right. Well, actually, first of all, I'm going to let you talk before I just like hijack this whole thing.
I like it when people presume Matt has something to say when he comes on these shows. It's adorable.
Yeah, I'm
Matt,
just here
tell me how are you feeling about what we're seeing so far tonight?
I just like sitting at the knee of Brian McWilliams to hope a little bit of that wisdom sort of rolls off and catches me. But well, I was listening a little bit to what Brian was saying, and you know, my sense of things, and I would have a lot to say about a lot of things, but you know, my sense of things was I saw a real opportunity when RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and Brett Weinstein and others sort of jumped on the Trump train, because that's a very different coalition than the Maha coalition is very different than the MAGA coalition. And I see a lot of libertarian opportunities there. I boldly predicted a week ago that either Donald Trump or Kamala Harris would win the election, and I'm sticking with that very bold prediction. And I've been thinking mostly about what happens the day after the election, assuming that we know who wins the election, and how libertarians can leverage our values and our policies and our voices to impact what that is. And if Donald Trump wins or loses, I do think that this new resistance, the Maha coalition, all of that stuff, there's a lot of liberty packed in there. And there's different ways to approach these issues. Like if RFK is talking about corporate capture, you know, we were talking about regulatory capture long before it was cool with the kids. And the lesson of that is that we don't need better regulation. We need to limit the power of the regulatory state, because as long as you're choosing winners and losers in the regulatory process, the big guys are going to win that fight. And I think there's a very important thing that we can bring to the table. And one thing I'll say about Angela, and by the way, I don't choose sides in the never-ending war between the thousands of libertarian factions who spend all the time kicking each other's asses. But I will say that if we want libertarian values to succeed in the marketplace of public opinion, we're going to have to form coalitions, and we're going to have to find common ground with people that we don't agree with on other things. And that should be a statement of the obvious. And I think we could really think about that pretty hard come tomorrow, because I think there's opportunities, and I don't think I'm being Pollyannish about that. I don't think that we should be pessimistic. We should view this as a window of opportunity to really push forward on some really cool stuff.
I was trying to think of ways. If Kamala wins, I was like, okay, what's the silver lining that we can take from this from libertarians? You know, obviously there's the resistance factor, but one of the things that popped out, like you talked about, okay, where could there be some overlap in what she's introduced where we can go, okay, that makes sense. We can jump on that. And while it's cliche and almost meaningless, the opportunity economy, right? She talks about the opportunity economy, but some of the things she's floating out there, like lowering taxes on, you know, and getting rid of red tape and regulations for small businesses. I'm not a fan of giving, you know, loans out to people, but that concept of the opportunities that exist for businesses, especially for people that are trying to create a new business, that are trying to come up, you know, compete against the little guy against the big guy, leaning into that, I thought, okay, if she wins, maybe there's something there where we can work and get people's ear and get them on our side to say, get rid of the taxes, get rid of the regulations, make it easier for people to start something and maintain something and hire and grow a business. And that's something, of course, with Kamala Harris, she just threw out there, but because the economy is such a main point of contention for people, she had to. So, I mean, there's one point of opportunity at least.
So I was a Tea Party organizer, and suspend your personal opinions about the Tea Party. Maybe you loved it, maybe you hated it.
It was amazing in the beginning. We all know that.
I know it actually was born out of the Ron Paul movement, and there was some real libertarian vibes in that movement. I'm biased. I was very much part of it, but remember, circa 2008, the Tea Party arises, very much like Occupy Wall Street, in opposition to Wall Street bailouts, a righteous fight, a righteous anger, and John McCain is the Republican candidate, and you guys may be too young to remember this, but he very dramatically suspended his campaign to go back to Washington and cast the fucking deciding vote to bail out Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the Tea Party was born out of that. Barack Obama becomes president, and those 2 years between Obama's election and the 2010 wave election, that was the so-called Tea Party election, was an opportunity for the opposition to organize around a certain set of values. And this is before the Tea Party really became political. It's before Sarah Palin and other Republican politicians successfully hijacked it. And that, to me, I can't find much about Kamala that is an opportunity for libertarians, except for her possibly doing some smart things on drug legalization, after having jailed every black man in California for minuscule drug crimes. But there's something about being the loyal opposition, and I think that's an opportunity, and I think that's where Maha and the New Resistance go. It's no longer about Donald Trump; it's about something else. And so I think win or lose, there's a foothold there for this liberty-ish coalition of outsiders, and to me that's interesting, and we should be part of that conversation.
I agree. Like, I was at the Rescue the Republic rally back in the end of September in Washington, D.C. And I was really frustrated that was painted as a Trump rally. Because, like, while I was there, I was like, yeah, there's some Trump people here. But, like, I live in a very, red area of PA. I know MAGA people. I go to church with MAGA people. I've seen MAGA rallies. I was like, this was different than a MAGA rally. This was actually a rally of people who were excited about ideas more so than just a person. And yeah, people were attaching that to, we should vote for Trump because he's the best person in the upcoming election. But it was also like more than that. It was like, it was talking about a movement that is centered on ideas of sort of opposing government being the one in control of our health, being in control of the media, being in control of the public education system, or if we should even have one of those. And also, there was a lot of conversations by the different speakers at that event about how, like, this broader coalition includes people of multiple backgrounds. It includes a lot of people who are like former Democrats, like RFK, like Tulsi. I don't think they're like bleeding heart. Like, just because they've joined the Republican Party doesn't mean that they're like bleeding red conservatives or anything like that. They still have some of the things that made them Democrats in the first place. And then you have the MAGA people who, yeah, they're misguided on things like tariffs and have some other economic illiteracies to them. But I'll take the MAGA over the Bush neocons that I grew up around when I was raised in a red evangelical family and community. And because they're at least not like they understand how bad it is for Kamala Harris to be out there campaigning with Liz freaking Cheney. You know what I mean? Like, so
boo.
yeah, I mean, so Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said, Matt. I think that there is a growing coalition that is kind of on the right, but it's even bigger than I think left and right. There's a common belief, and they're not perfect libertarians, but there's at least a belief that, like, hey, we're on the side that doesn't want the state to be sort of like the master over every aspect of society and every aspect of our lives. And that's not only a great opportunity for coalitioning, it's a great opportunity for education. Like at that rally, the Libertarian Party had a table, and they weren't just sitting there like some detractors might try to say, and like just promoting Trump. They were actually engaging with Trump supporters and handing out literature on why tariffs are bad, and having conversations with these Trump supporters and MAGA people, or even other people who maybe just haven't heard into this because they're coming from the Maha side and they're more about the healthcare stuff, and having conversations about what libertarians believe. So like we can choose to be part of this and have an impact on it, or we can stay on the sidelines, comforted by our ideological purity, and continue to just get 1 to 4% in every presidential election that we enter into for the next 20 years. So that's where I'm at. I think that we should be part of that and capitalize on that, get more libertarians, and affect policy change wherever we can.
Well, and as someone who came from the civil liberties space, initially, that was my first kind of grassroots effort. Does anyone here remember the 2012 NDAA? That was my biggest thing. I ran people against the NDAA. We did local and state nullification, interposition, did some federal level stuff. The Democrats were relatively fine with the NDAA, with drone strikes, with Obama kind of having all of this power. But the rhetoric from the Democrat side has just been, if this one guy gets elected, then, he's going to, have military camps everywhere and march leftists into, guillotines and stuff like that. If Kamala Harris does win out of this, there's a real opportunity for libertarians there to go the civil liberties route with the left and go the civil liberties route with Democrats. Look, you've been saying this. Trump's not the only crazy guy out there. There's a lot of other crazy people out there too. Let's actually put guardrails in to prevent the state. Let's actually repeal FISA and get it through. Let's actually put guardrails in to prevent one person that you were so scared of until now from having all of that power. I think there's an opportunity for that conversation there too on the Democrat side if Kamala Harris wins.
Yeah. Now, like I'm thinking of someone like Jimmy Dore, who would have, by any measure, been considered a progressive and a Democrat and on the left, and he would be 100% with us on those very important issues. But I'm afraid that the modern authoritarian Democratic Party has perhaps chased a lot of them out. But again, and it's not like we're working with Republicans or Democrats. We're working with people that share these common values. We all know that there's more independents than there are Democrats and Republicans, and we also know that politicians respond to incentives. So I think we reassemble once we know the results of this election, and we figure out who the good guys are in either party, and we build coalitions and we find common ground on issues that matter. And sometimes when you're building a coalition, you put aside the fight that you're going to have on that other thing. And this seems sort of obvious to me, but why we're so pure when in fact there's only one obviously perfect libertarian, and that's me, and everybody else falls a little bit short. Falls a little bit short, but I'm still willing to work with everybody because I have a big heart. Okay.
Well, this is where
something I'll throw out too from like a decade in grassroots organizing. Stop trying to stuff everybody else in the same damn tent. Yeah. There are multiple different ways to skin this cat. There are multiple different people who have better avenues in different areas to advance liberty. Stop trying to go, oh, well, you're hanging out with them. That's clearly the wrong strategy. No, it's just like it's a marketplace of ideas. It's a marketplace of strategies. And there are lots of different angles to this. They don't always have to be branded libertarian with the eagle and, line up perfectly with all of your precepts in order to be successful. And if we spend more time at each other's throats about the fact that, you choose to work with Donald Trump and you chose to work with Democrats and you chose to work with this, we're just doing ourselves a major disservice in that case.
Well, it's also just there's such an opportunity cost to all the infighting, right? Like, and it's on both sides, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I guess there's more than one side in the liberty movement, but like,
I actually fight with myself when I'm alone. So
right, exactly. I mean, that's what we do as libertarians, right? It's like
masturbating isn't fighting with yourself. That's just having a good time.
Don't project.
I know it looks like you're fighting, but it's not.
I guess just I got to get going soon, but I just wanted to say this. Like,
way to go, Brian! You chased him out.
You make one masturbation joke to the Bible guy. What's the line?
Listen, the first thing he said when I got into the stream was about how he ends every speech by saying he's going to go up to his room and be naked, and then invites everyone to come with him. So, I mean, I've lasted this long after that.
It's awkward at Pork Fest because I just have to give a tree in the woods. I'll be like, I'll be at the third pine on the left.
Listen, Christians can learn something to me about not being so delicate. All right, like I'm able to take it a little bit. No, I think
was that a pegging joke?
Rachel's not here, David. You don't have to make her jokes for her, okay?
Jacob, we're never going to allow you to make what was obviously going to be an important point. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go, Jacob.
I think that there's a lot of blame, a lot of like finger pointing that people can do in this movement to be like, well, they started this, they did that. And I get into it myself sometimes. I have my opinions on stuff, but you know what I've set out to do is to not get sucked into it and to just promote what I like. And if someone doesn't like what I like, kind of what you were saying, Matt, it's like, whatever, like there's enough room, like you were saying, Dan, like, there's enough room for people to do different things. And what pushes people away from actually identifying as a libertarian or joining the Libertarian Party or, any of these things is more so when they look at our culture and how toxic it is and how bad we can be to each other. Like, you know what? Like, do we think that Republicans all agree on everything and get along? Do we think Democrats all agree on everything and get along? Listen, I can speak from my experience in churches of various denominations. And yeah, like this is just part of the human condition. But we can either try to unite behind the 80% we agree on or, kill each other over the 20% we disagree on. And I'm tired of, I voted for Trump this morning. I'm sure that a lot of people in this stream voted for Chase, but like we can still be friends. We can still agree and work together on the things that we agree on. And that's really, I think, the heart of what I'm trying to get out of this election too. It's like, me voting for Trump doesn't mean that even though I have criticisms for Chase, that I have to shit on the guy or act like he's some horrible person or act like that he wasn't, given a difficult task of running in a year where RFK Jr. basically sucked all the energy and attention out of the room for third-party candidates. It didn't matter.
And then went to Trump.
Right, exactly. So, like, I have respect for Chase for the work that he put into it. It's not easy. I mean, he went to every single state during his campaign. And, it's like for the disagreements I have with him on certain cultural things, on a policy level, I would have loved to see, that he'd be compared to the other two candidates, he'd be a dream candidate to have in there. And I appreciate that he probably did plant some seeds in people's minds on his cycle. And I hope, like you said, Dan, I hope he does stay. I know Jorgensen stayed for a little bit, but now I don't see her around much anymore. And it's like, you know what? Like, I'm all for everyone staying and getting along. But that's just me.
Even when she ran for president, she was hard to notice. She could be right behind you, man. You wouldn't know it.
That's true. Listen, I'm just the hippie, everyone get along, please, Christian here. I mean, so maybe I'm a little pie in the sky in my thinking here, but listen, like we as libertarians, we are such a minority, and I'm just done. Like, listen, if someone's gonna make me an enemy, then whatever, I'll ignore them. But I'm not looking to make enemies with anybody in this movement. We just got to find ways to work together on the things that we agree on, which is a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking a bit of what you were saying, a bit of what Matt was saying, I mean, I do think coalition building is key, but also I've talked about this on a lot of shows, and I've like with the website that's coming for the Libertarian Party that's going to publish soon. The whole idea behind it is I want to create shitty libertarians, and what I mean by that is non-purity test libertarians, people that look. A lot of people are single issue voters. We have a lot of issues where we are very divergent from both of the major parties on, and very principled on. And if we could get these people that are single issue voters that are anti-war or, free market or anti, you name it, we got it, or want their child to be able to have a decent education, you get them in on one idea. Because how many people have y'all talked to where you get them on one thing? You have one argument, you win, and they go, shit, you know what? I never thought of that. I mean, there's one guy, JB, who was on our podcast, black dude from Philly. He was a leftist. I beat him to death on a gun rights argument. And he went, you know what? You're right. Completely changed the entire worldview, read into libertarian philosophy, became a full-fledged libertarian.
Yeah.
All you have to do is get him on one issue. And if we can win over enough people on one issue, they can become shitty libertarians. I don't need them to give a damn about anything else. I don't need them to be pure. I just need them to buy in. I need them to become party members. I need them to vote libertarian. I need them to help us have a voting block where we go, hey, this guy's good, that guy's bad, go do it. That's what we need. And it's very possible. But as you said, we have to build coalitions, and we have to stop driving people away if they don't agree with you on every single little thing.
Well, let me end on this, and then I'll hop out. You brought up you won someone on one issue. What's funny is that the issue that won me is the meme. I had the what about the roads? I was like, and like I really cared about that. Like I was just like, how do we build infrastructure? How do we do this? And one of my friends, literally, I mean, I think we spent 4 hours going back and forth, and he was explaining how libertarians, conceptualize urban planning and infrastructure and stuff like that without centralized power and coercion. And by the end of that 4-hour conversation, I was like, it was funny. I remember saying to him, I guess that all makes sense, but it's weird. It's like, you're not leaving any room for the government to do anything, and that would just be anarchy. And he was like, you got it. He's like, you got it. You're one of us. You've made it. And that's what we need to do. We should have conversations with people. And yeah, like we have the ideas that are true, right? Like we have the truth on our side. And I love that Ron Paul quote. I said this at the end of the LCI stream, which was that a good idea whose time has come, cannot lose. And like the Ron Paul revolution, like I know Dave Smith said the other day, like, maybe we can't revive it. I was like, I don't think it's dead. I think it's just kind of, mutated, right? I think that
full circle right now, man.
Yeah, like the fact
is in the government, into the Department of Government Efficiency. He's got more influence than he had before. Probably.
Well, listen, even if that doesn't happen, just the impact on the Overton window that Ron Paul is in the headlines again, that the ideas of Ron Paul and the Ron Paul revolution and libertarianism are really like, kind of front and center in this election cycle shows that we might be a minority, but we punch above our weight. So I'm optimistic
1 million
about
followers
the future.
on Twitter now. Like, I don't know what he had
Ron
2 weeks
Paul?
ago.
I don't know either.
Yeah, but I know that he
wasn't a
broke
million.
1 million. Yeah.
I
don't know if that's a doubling or
So-
he finally went from 950 to a million. I don't know.
We'll have to go back. We'll have to
check
go back
his
on the way back machine. But yeah, listen.
Somebody's
Moral
listening
of the story is no black pilling. All right, we have nothing but white pills going forward.
Amen.
Hell yeah.
So that's what we'll leave you guys
Yeah.
on. All right, take it easy, guys.
Jacob, thanks for coming on.
Yep, thanks for having me.
We are going to
Yeah,
look at
things are
some of
getting
the results
interesting.
again.
This is
Yeah.
bonkers. I'm looking at. I'm
PA
looking at just the
flipped.
Google one. And the one I'm looking at, I don't know. I can't see close enough for this one. Arizona frontrunners. Donald Trump is the frontrunner in every single race. Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, PA, Wisconsin, and Nevada. He's a frontrunner in all of them. Now, granted, that
Yeah.
It's early. Weirdness can happen, and but
the big cities are always later.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things that are sort of fundamentally interesting to me. One is that incumbents in shitty economies never win, and it's a little bit tricky because is she the incumbent or is she not? She's trying not to be while still wearing the mantle of the White House and the presidency. But the fact is, the economy sucks. People are hurting. Inflation is tearing apart family budgets, and that is very difficult to overcome. I also think, and we were all touching on this shift that's not right or left. It's not conservative or liberal. It's authoritarian or anti-authoritarian, and I think you're seeing a political realignment where someone like Jimmy Dore fits perfectly, almost perfectly, with someone like Vivek Ramaswamy, and that suggests to me that the issues that animate them, anti-lockdown authoritarianism, anti-forever war, anti-speech censorship industrial complex, the list goes on and on. Like this is really interesting stuff, and I think that's the 1-2 punch. And I've my sense is that Trump is going to win tonight, and I might be dead wrong about that, but if he does win, it's going to be a combination of those two things. And part of that is not like, I should add that Kamala can't string a coherent thought together.
I want you never know with her, can or won't.
I want to believe that matters. I'm not sure it matters, but that is it matters to me, but maybe it doesn't matter to other people.
What do you guys think? Let me ask you this, 'cause I'm really curious, honestly. I don't think there's a lot of times that the vice presidential candidate really made a difference to me. And I think in this race, it made a big difference, because Tim Walz is a fucking imbecile. He's an authoritarian. He's a cretin. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about with football. He keeps posting. He says he's a coach of football, and he keeps posting wrong terminology. And JD Vance is out there, from what I've seen anyway, just killing it. I mean, just crushing it. And he's younger. I mean, I can only say from what I've seen. No, I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are, because I actually think it makes a difference. I mean, I think in this race, it's made a difference.
I'll agree with you. He's less of an idiot than Walz. I do think that I think that Walz being an idiot, the way that he is, kind of made Kamala look better, and not in like because he was stupider than her way, but she seems very like animated and like robotic and kind of standoffish, and Walz, I think, softened her up a lot. He was definitely the more empathetic, charismatic, people person of the campaign. He, waving his arms like a fucking idiot, but you could tell that he was actually like happy to be there, excited to, as much as of a tyrant as he is. I think that he's one of those like deluded ones that's like actually excited to serve his people, and he thinks that if he can just control them well enough, then they'll be perfect. Unlike some of the other actors in Washington, where they are clearly just trying to amass power over anything. I do want to jump to one other election that we were talking about earlier and get specifically Mr. Johnson's take on it, because he is our resident Nebraska expert. So in Nebraska currently, we have a Senate race where our independent candidate is still in the lead. This is like an actual independent candidate who came out swinging with a lot of kind of RFK, Cornel West-esque rhetoric, and we might get a legitimate independent into the U.S. Senate. Dan, tell me what you think about this, how you think this is possible in a state that typically is pretty solid red.
Yeah, I can't actually see who this is, and I don't know who it is, which makes me an incredible Nebraska expert.
Sorry, it's we're gonna. How do I'm gonna switch this around if I can, or it's just gonna be evil to me the whole time. There we go.
There we go. Osborne. Okay.
Dan Osborne. Yeah.
Yeah, so Dan Osborne is actually pretty well known in Nebraska, so he has a lot of good name recognition. But I think that the only way, independents who go to the Senate are almost never independent. I'm really curious about his actual, independence. Bernie Sanders was an independent, caucus with the Democrats. Joe Lieberman was an independent, caucused with statists. I mean, that independents don't tend to be independent going there. But if he really is independent, a lot of it is about culture. A lot of it is about Nebraska having a legislature that doesn't designate whether people are Republican or Democrat when they vote. A lot of it is about Nebraska having the unicameral legislature, this idea that it is far more about the independent nature of the state, independent nature of its people, self-reliant nature of its people than the parties. And this is something I would almost call out. I'm going to have to jump here in a second, but something I would almost call out for libertarians is I know quite a few people who refuse to work with libertarians, not because of libertarian ideology, but because of how libertarians treat each other. You guys were talking about this a little bit earlier. I'm not a huge, big fan of speech policing. But you've got to defend your culture. If you want to have a good culture, you got to kick your bad actors out. And if you want to have a culture where people are going to be respecting each other, then when somebody decides to call someone out personally and attack them online, which happens all the freaking time in libertarian circles, other people need to say, "Get out of here." Other people need to say, "We're not interested in what you have to say. We're not following you. We don't care about this post because you're personally attacking somebody in our movement." There is this idea right now in libertarian spaces that our culture, because we're free speech absolutists, our culture is just, you can go after anybody and you can say the meanest, dumbest things online. I respect your right to do that. But if I want this to be a culture that welcomes people who respect each other, we need to have a culture where people defend those who respect each other and kick out those who don't. And that is probably our biggest problem as libertarians, that if we could get on board with that, we don't have to agree on half the policies that are out there. But if we could get on board with that each of us are kind of leaders in various libertarian spaces. If we could get on board with that and get other leaders on board with, we don't trash each other publicly. The public flogging was banned in the United States.
Love that. Make my job a lot easier.
But public flogging was banned in the United States, not because of the flogging, but because of the public nature of it. But by people seeing you get destroyed in the village, destroyed your reputation a lot worse than the actual flogging hurt. So if I can give one, hey, in 2025, we can be better as libertarians, it's to actively call out and on some levels call in people who are just outright disrespectful and insulting, and create a more respectful place where people who are willing to be respectful want to be seen with us.
Well said.
Amen to that.
Well said.
I do want to point out that it's a red state where the independent is beating the Republican. Which is a notable thing that proves what we've been saying all along, which is, if you're in, let's say in Indiana, that's almost always red. We consistently, we campaign to the Republicans too, but we'll consistently tell the Democrats, if you guys just would work with us, give us the boost that we would need to actually have relevance, stop running your candidate because they're not going to win, and give us a little bit of your machine behind us, we could actually flip this state and take it away from the Republicans. Wouldn't you rather have a libertarian than a Republican as your senator or your governor? Most Democrats would. This kind of proves that that's a real thing that's possible if that ends up actually happening. I don't want to jinx it because I did that a couple times already. But I do want to real quick.
No, I wish I knew
Sorry,
more
go ahead.
about the race. I wish I knew more about the race and the candidates, because Nebraska has a different system And it's possible that this independent is just a Democrat who is going to caucus with the Democrats, and I just don't know. So we'll see if he does win. Is he an actual independent, or is he just going to be another Bernie sort of pretend independent?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was looking into some of the issues. I actually had a listener for one of my other podcasts who I always talk about this, Matt, this talk about getting, expanding the base and then bringing people in. This is like a comedy podcast we did, but she had asked me specifically about him because she lives in Nebraska. And I looked into some of his specific points, and he seems pretty solid on a lot of things. He does not seem like a Bernie Sanders in any way. Like, I mean, I off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, but I looked into it for her to be like, okay, here's what I agree with and don't agree with. And I think about 75-80% of the stuff he was running on, pretty damn good. I mean, legitimately, like libertarians would be like, yeah, I'm on board with that. I think maybe guns was one thing he was not great on, but a lot of the other stuff was pretty straightforward as far as like, economics that we would agree with, education we would agree with. So
yeah,
not bad.
All I really know is because I just found out about this race a couple of days ago, because I had about 6 or 7 of my political operative friends who were like either Yang or Gabbard or some other, a lot of them eventually RFK type activists, all were in Nebraska for the last week working on this campaign. And so the secondhand, most of these people are not libertarians. They are people that I have a bunch of disagreements with on various policies. But again, to that 80-20 rule, they're still my friends and we're working together on most things. So for them to put their blood, sweat, and tears into a race, I'm willing to at least be hopeful that they follow through with some of the promises that would have made them do that. But we've got one more guest to welcome in, coming to help me close out the night. My good friend and host of Rise to Liberty, Mr. Jacob J. Welcome to the fight.
Hey guys, how's it going tonight?
Hey, what's up?
Keen?
Just hanging out. Just got done with the Utah hockey game. So Utah finally got an NHL team. So I'm stoked on that.
Nice. What's the name?
We're actually voting on a name right now, so it's the worst name possible.
Obviously,
until we get the new one, but it's Utah Hockey Club. But the running right now is right. But the running right now is the Utah Yetis. So,
I mean, I guess if you're going the Mighty Ducks Disney model, that's fine.
Well, I mean,
is Emilio Estevez your first coach?
I wish. I wish.
Bring him out of retirement.
Emilio.
I still think I should steal the Utah Utes. Steal it for the hockey team. It's the best.
Yeah.
Go Utes.
Yeah, I agree with that actually.
It's better than a new name for the Redskins, which is the Washington War Criminals. So
yeah, right.
Like
they should have been the snake skins or something like that.
Yeah,
shed skins all the time.
Yeah, we just go with war metaphors, I guess, because that's what we do here.
Yeah, the Commanders. Shake it's so bad. It's so bad. I actually there was one. It was like the name of a black fighter squadron. It still would have been militaristic, but it was like the red something, the red pilots. You know, any idea what I'm talking about, Matt? It was they were floating a few out there. It was kind of like the Tuskegee Airmen, but for DC, I guess.
I think you're talking about the Red Baron, right?
Man, no, not the Red Baron. I'm not talking about Snoopy. Fuck, I can't remember the name of it, but there was some pilot squadron. But then somebody bought I swear to God, because the Redskins are such an odd organization and so cheap, especially under Dan Snyder. I think somebody bought the website for the name already, and he probably was like, well, I'm not paying for that. And then they just went to be the shitty Commanders. I think they just got to skip the Washington football team.
Yeah, they
better
should
than Commanders. Yeah.
Right.
WFT.
Objectively better. So the West Coast is starting to report, and California and Washington are already called for Harris. Oregon is probably not far behind, as it is a 30-point lead, almost 25-point lead in Oregon. So it's
my wife. By the way, my wife here in California, voted for Trump, and as soon as she wakes up from me choking her out, I'm going to tell her why she should have voted for Chase Oliver, because it would have made more sense, because California is going Harris either way.
Okay, that's hilarious. It says there's 0% reporting, but they already called it.
Already called.
Breaking noise. Bitcoin is kicking ass, and we all know that the Bitcoin bros have gotten behind Trump, and that to me is almost as good as the betting markets to tell you where this election is trending.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? And I think it did matter. The Joe Rogan endorsement, I think, matters. And I think that the young male population coming out, as well as the black male population, is going to be a massive difference in this vote. College age, like they showed millennials and especially Gen Zers lean way more heavily Republican or way more independent libertarian than they do Democrat, because of all the shit, all the messaging that they've been laying out there from the Democrat side, just kind of attacking men, especially white men. And that's where that Rogan endorsement, I think, really makes a difference.
So, like, I'd take it a step further, because I think the Rogan podcast with Trump made more difference than the Rogan endorsement. And Rogan's entire philosophy, the reason he does 3 hours, he was talking about this today or yesterday, that at some point politicians run out of bullshit and talking points, and you actually get to discover a little bit about who they are as a person. And the fact that Kamala wouldn't wanted to orchestrate some sort of 45-minute thing in the White House or something else. I think there's been a cultural shift where people, particularly young people, this isn't even an ideological thing; it's an authenticity thing.
Yeah,
where
it's like the gut feeling.
If you could have a conversation with someone and explain where you're coming from, people are more interested in you, not because they agree with you 100% of the time, but because you actually are thoughtful enough to be able to try to explain yourself. And I think that is a cultural shift that, again, sort of we should be excited about, because the cool thing about being a libertarian is that we actually have some really compelling ideas, and we also have a lot of really interesting thought leaders that know how to talk about these in persuasive ways, instead of sort of the didactic way that we were all taught to yell at everybody about libertarianism when we were younger. So I think the Rogan effect is not so much the endorsement, but it's the cultural shift that allows for curious people to discover people and ideas in a way that's not filtered with all the typical political bullshit. So I'm very optimistic about that.
I don't know about you guys, but it kind of seemed like the reaction from Kamala Harris actually said a lot more about who she is as a person.
Yep.
Her trying to demand like one of the largest podcasts in the world, right?
Yeah, you come to me.
Yeah, right. And it's like, we're doing it this long, and here's the list of demands. And it's I think either way, that was just so very telling.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was honestly filibustering on her part. They did this to say, oh, no, we want to do the show, Joe, but you have to come to us and it's only an hour, that knowing he would say no. But they didn't want to outright say no, because that would make them look even worse in their mind. Of course, it backfired spectacularly, to both of your points, because it made her look inauthentic, and obviously she's trying to ditch it and avoid it and control it. They should have just flat out said no.
Right.
To be honest. And probably her voters would have respected it more, because then they're like, well, fuck that horse paste eating bastard anyway. I do think also the media manipulation that's gone on, I think, has actually backfired in a lot of ways on the Democratic Party. The Donald Trump, Liz Cheney thing, I think, backfired spectacularly. That was one of the most egregious examples of media malpractice. An obvious statement, an anti-war statement. And the younger generation is very much anti-war. They see what's going on. They see the money being spent overseas. Like, what the hell are we doing here? Then to see the entire media apparatus try to pretend that Donald Trump was threatening to put Liz Cheney up against a firing squad. It made no sense. And it's like, did the media not understand with the internet, especially with Elon Musk, you can find the whole clip in about 0.2 seconds to see this. I mean, I swear to God,
the wild part is they were
world in regards to truth telling. I mean, the corporate media is collapsing in on itself. And post Trump, I really don't know where they're going to go. I mean, they've been so thoroughly eradicated and defeated as far as a trustworthy source of information. I think that you're going to see more collapse than you saw this past year, where New York's #1 news station, it was news for 30, 40 years, went to sports.
Yeah. I completely lost my train of thought.
I tend to have that effect on people.
Yeah. Oh man,
that's your magic.
Yeah. Just spin me in circles, Brian.
I mean, yeah,
there is no thought train. There is only Zool.
Yeah, the obvious elephant in the room. If we want to look at a tipping point, when I knew who was going to win the election, it was Taylor Swift's endorsement, and
yes,
and clearly coordinated with Dick Cheney. I don't want to get too Alex Jones on you guys, but it was pretty obvious to me that if both Dick Cheney and Taylor Swift are on your side, we're going to have problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Problems.
And
Cardi B.
Yeah.
I mean, Taylor Swift has made a career of, making terrible decisions, and we're all supposed to take her decision very seriously, apparently. And
Jacob, are you promising me that she's going to be releasing a breakup song with Kamala Harris that's going to top the charts in about 3 months?
Yeah, most
That'd
definitely.
be great, yeah.
Most definitely. And it's going to split the NFL right in half.
I'm okay with that.
It's going to be sort of her breakout hip hop song, and I think she's got Diddy involved somehow. It's going to be lit.
I do think that one of the things that probably lost Kamala votes was the pandering to exactly Trump's demographic. Like the some of those weird like country boys for Harris type ads where like somebody who's clearly never touched a pickup truck before, sitting like cross-legged all weird with a beer in his hand, being like, I'm a white dude for Harris. It's like, no, you're not. You're not fooling anyone. And so they didn't get any votes with those types of ads. I don't think, maybe a couple dozen across the country. But I think a lot of diehard Harris supporters who they're not diehard Harris supporters, but like diehard lefties who were already kind of questioning whether or not Harris was worth their vote, or if they were going to vote against war, against genocide and everything else and go like Jill Stein, saw that and said, well, clearly they care more about pandering to conservative, like pro-war voters than they care about pandering to their own base, and maybe saying a couple of anti-war phrases here and there. We're gonna actually make the leap and go and vote third party or stay home today. I think she lost a lot of votes by showing that she was more concerned about the white dude in rural nowhere than her.
I thought you were going to go a different direction with that. I thought you were going to go the direction of, if you're an on the fence lefty, you see this and you see these fucking losers out there being like, I'm a guy for Harris. And you go, well, I'm not that fucking stupid. I'm not that much of a fucking, piece of shit. Fuck this. I'm going Trump. Like, that's what, for me, if I saw that, I'd be like, Jesus, I'm one of these guys. This is it. These are my people. No, thank you. It's kind of like when Obama went to black men and was like, if you don't vote for Kamala, you just might be. It's like he's like Jeff Foxworthy. Like Obama's like, he's like black Jeff Foxworthy. If you don't vote for Kamala, you just might be a sexist. Exact same fucking act.
I mean, did anyone really believe that these were genuine people in these ads though? Like it was like the worst acting I've ever seen. It's like, I don't know if these people, like, they have some genuine talent to act that bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it, you could just see through it. It was almost like AI made these ads, which actually would not surprise me at the least, because I don't know how they would be able to get anyone
How many
to
fingers
say.
did each of the white men for Harris, these manly men, have? Do we look and see?
I don't know.
I'm voting for Harris. He's got 3 thumbs.
Yeah. Did anyone happen to see the Doritos ad that she did with Tim Walz? It was like right at the very start of the campaign. And it was like, oh, look, we're just normal people in a convenience store getting Doritos.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
have 3 different camera angles.
Yeah. Kamala, you like Doritos? Like overpronounced each syllable.
Right. And it turns out like Pepsi Company donated like $100,000 to her campaign.
Of course.
It's like, oh, okay, so this is just a paid advertisement. I get it.
Did you see today? And look, I don't know. There's a way to make a phone call and also accidentally open your camera app. Did you see that Kamala did a call with a voter?
Yeah.
It was a call, and she's like, "Oh, you voted for that? That's so great!" And then she turns the phone around to show people who she's talking to, and it's just the camera app open. So I don't know. Everyone is saying like she doesn't talk to anybody. She's making it up, which I can completely see.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, hi."
Yeah.
There was another. She did one of those like photo shoots from Air Force One, like like flying to whatever. I don't remember. It's just some basic fucking social media post, and she had her phone sitting on the desk, headphones plugged in, like corded headphones, like in her ear, and then just dangling. Nothing plugged into the phone.
Right,
oh
man.
So I want to talk about the Dick Cheney endorsement and how that would impact true anti-war progressives, particularly progressives, and they were protesting in Michigan and other places. The Biden administration's policies. Specifically in Gaza, and they trot out Liz Cheney and Dick Cheney, and on The View they're all swooning about Liz Cheney possibly taking over the CIA. I gotta believe that there are still people on the left that are horrified by that.
Yeah,
it's just such a remarkable pivot. I don't think you can have it both, and then to add insult to injury, Waltz said that now that Dick Cheney's on board with Kamala, I guess we can make it safe for libertarians and constitutional conservatives to vote for us.
That was my favorite.
Yeah.
That was really
some of the
stupid.
Worst. Oh my God.
Right.
I think that I think you're right. There's got to be some portion of the left that had to have walked away after those series of endorsements. But it is wild to see that clip from The View. But I think the really important part of it, the reason that it's not going to lose as many votes as it should, is the very last couple of words of that quote are to go after Trump supporters.
Mm-hmm.
They're okay with the CIA being grown if it means taking out the racist, sexist, terrible people that tried to put a dictator in office. They're okay.
Yeah.
And same vice versa. Trump has said a lot of similar things about weaponizing the legal system against political opponents and against journalists that say bad things about him. And he wants to pull licenses for places that don't cover him as much as Kamala. And that's not freedom either. But people are okay with it as long as it's always shown as if it's just going to be used against them. Like this will never be used against you, of course, which we all know to be bullshit.
Exactly. Well, it's like, it's, I guess I also agree. Like, there's Trump said some dumb shit. And I guess with Trump, the solace I take in that is that Trump says so much hyperbolically stupid shit that I don't think the vast majority of it he necessarily means or would follow through with. Like the media made a big deal about Trump saying if he was shot, they'd have to shoot the media first, making a joke. And he has been shot at. And they were like, even Trump wants the media to get shot. Like, okay, he's just kind of saying crap off the cuff. So a lot of stuff Trump says, I go, he just throws out a lot of shit and he walks it back, and he did as president. So I try to take that into account. But to your point, yeah, everybody thinks that things are going to go great forever. You know, look at like the lowering of standards across the board for passing legislation in in Congress, where they keep making it easier to do because they have power at the time. And then what ends up happening? Oh, now you can just fuck everything up all the time. Oh, they're trying to get rid of the filibuster. It's like, of course it's going to be weaponized against you. Of course, speech, whoever decides power decides what hate speech is, what free speech is. How do people not understand this? I use this all the time. Slavery and arguing against slavery would have been considered hate speech in the time when slavery was popular because everybody agreed with it for the most part. Right. So if you decide what is it or is not hate speech, arguing that slavery is not so great and that black people should maybe have a chance to be free, live those lives, hate speech against white people banned. People are morons, man. And this is why
the crops.
Well,
unfortunately, it's a legitimate almost quote. Like,
well, Democrats in 1860 and Democrats in 2024.
Yeah. but sorry, just to put a bow on that, to what Matt said earlier, though, about people looking for authenticity, I think that's where we have a chance, because we don't blow with the winds. Our stance is the same. We are authentic. This is what we believe. We don't give a shit about if you have power. If you have power, this is what we believe. We will continue to believe it. We will not deviate from this position. And that's the authenticity, especially now, I think people are really looking for.
Right. I mean, we live in an artificial world, right? And it just keeps getting more and more artificial as time goes on. Recently, I just went and saw Terrifier 3 in the theater with my wife. Actually seen it a couple of times. And I think it's interesting because
that's not when you put your dick in the popcorn bucket.
No. Well, I don't know. With my wife, maybe. But, just kidding, Eddie, if you're watching.
Brian, you always put your dick in the popcorn bucket, don't you?
I do, but
he has every time.
Not always my wife's. That's where I get in trouble.
So I find it interesting because it's like an independent film, right? And it comes out and just destroys a film that was produced by these big Hollywood moguls, and it does so well in the theater just because it's actual piece of film. And I think that people just in general are looking for something that's just authentic, just like you were saying. And these things are going to become more and more valuable. Authenticity will be the currency of the future socially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, for all of the censorship and all of the issues that we have getting our story out, it fundamentally levels the playing field from not too long ago. And I think that's something, again, like we should be very white-pilled about this. We have a beautiful story to tell. And if we could stop being assholes long enough to engage people who haven't read all 6 chapters, all 6 volumes of Murray Rothbard's History of Economic Thought, just maybe we might engage people on this beautiful solution. Because I really think, unfortunately, our entire model of social change is once they've tried everything else, and once things get really, really bad, maybe, just maybe, they'll try liberty. And we're sort of at that point. It's sort of the Milei model in Argentina, and I'd rather not become Argentina before we can solve some of these problems. But we're sort of careening that way, so we should probably get on it and try to turn people onto this. But like, for the first time in my life, we're actually able to compete at that level in terms of storytelling, in terms of authenticity, in terms of engaging people. Like, the barriers aren't as bad as they used to be. So we should be optimistic about what we might do the day after the election.
Well, you know what, Matt, you and I have talked about this, and you've talked to us a lot on your show, is how excited you were for the digital age, right? The democratization of content and interaction. And I always go back to this. It cannot be discounted how important Elon Musk buying X has been to getting back to the core belief that you had and that I shared, in that the digital age can lead to a libertarian philosophy utopia at some point. But it's only been possible since Elon Musk bought X, and look what he's doing now. Elon Musk is a full-fledged libertarian who, for some reason, won't give us any money.
Yeah. Well,
Elon, give us some money.
He like there's a bunch of these guys, because you can go back and watch the Rogan videos where he's full-throatedly endorsing Ron Paul.
Yeah.
And just really excited about that. These both of these guys, and I could just tick off endless names of the most influential people in this country, in this new world, who are libertarians, but they either don't know it, or they think we're probably just a little too weird and self-destructive to coalesce with.
Yeah.
But either way, that's an opportunity, right?
Well, do you believe Zuckerberg? That Zuckerberg says that he's coming around to libertarian thought?
I will give him the benefit of the doubt and engage him on that, and see if he goes there. I'll tell a story. I went to a small school called Grove City College, and there at the time there was a professor who had studied under Ludwig von Mises. We actually were taught Austrian economics when I was in college. One of the guys that this professor Hans Sennholz taught was a guy named Winklevoss. And Howard Winklevoss had twins, and these twins learned Austrian economics from their dad and decided to bet big on Bitcoin. Now they're worth about $6 billion. And they're also turned on to these ideas. They're discovering these ideas. I think something's going to break. But again, like broken note, one note Johnny, again and again and again, like let's go engage these people. So if Zuckerberg says he's liberty curious, let's take him at his word and engage him and see if he's serious about it. Maybe it's a cynical strategy to cover his butt for all the shit that Facebook did, but maybe not.
Well, I don't think it's a cynical strategy to cover his butt for what they did necessarily. I think it's a proactive strategy similar to Elon Musk, in that Zuckerberg sees what's going on with global authoritarianism, censoring of speech, attacking all of your assets, not just Facebook. Because Zuckerberg, remember now with Meta, it's not just Facebook. He's got all these different companies and different entities, just like Elon Musk. They see the writing on the wall. These authoritarians are coming after him, and they'll go after everything they own. And I think that's where he's leading into, like, shit. They're going to come after me. I was playing ball, but they're coming after me, and I need to get on the side of protecting this. And libertarians are the only people that are actually talking any sense.
Yeah.
So do you think, like, him coming out and admitting that he was pressured by the Biden DOJ, do you think like that was a genuine thing that he wanted to come out and tell everyone?
Yep. I think specifically he wants people to know he was pressured. The government does this. They interfere. They're changing the narrative. He's trying to get people on his side, so when the government comes after him, he can go like Elon Musk and have some public favor and have a groundswell behind him. Because Elon Musk at this point, if Elon Musk was arrested, like they tried to do a Telegram, right, in France, the CEO of Telegram, I could legitimately say I think you'd see a V for Vendetta style repercussion of people going, fuck no, we're not going to allow this to happen.
Yeah. Right. And I agree. I think he should definitely be welcomed into these circles. Let's just not, push him to the front of the line for presidential candidates. Well, outside of that, I think there's room for everybody if they're curious to it. And we just, as long as we're not playing these, purity contests that some people like to do, these very few people with these loud voices, then, I think everyone does have a place, because we are on the right side of history, in my opinion, and I think time will definitely prove that. And even if they are just flirting with it, let them come in and see what it's about. I think we do have really convincing arguments and really convincing positions, so I don't see the harm in it.
Amen. By the way, my position is going to be on the couch. I've been on this for like an hour and 40 minutes. I'm leaving. I'm leaving.
Yeah, let the old man go to bed.
Yeah.
The
guy on the West Coast. The guy on the West Coast tapping out already.
I have two kids that were exhausting me. My daughter was in my room at 5:15 in the morning for some reason. Got in the bed and we're just like, great. Okay, just gonna sit here kicking me for the next hour until I get up out of bed. Yeah. Going to bed. All right, good night, guys. David, thanks for having me. Jake, a pleasure to meet you, and of course, Matt Kibbles, love you. A pleasure as always, man. All right,
thanks for
peace,
coming,
Brian.
All right, let's check back in with some of these results because we've got the first battleground state has been officially called, which is North Carolina for Trump. Georgia has 91% of the vote in. It's still fairly close, but Trump's got it by enough that I think he'll probably, unless something wild happens there, that also stays red. So if we switch over to the map that I get to edit, if we assume Virginia stays blue, that really just leaves these 5 states, most of which Trump is currently leading in, and Trump really only needs like one of them to win. I guess 2 if it's Michigan or Wisconsin. But like this is definitely looking like the map goes red this year.
Can I say that?
No,
I'm fair enough.
Go ahead.
I'm really impressed with how Florida whipped out their results so quick. It's just crazy to me. I never in my life saw an election take as long as it has before,
Yeah.
And so there, with Florida being able to whip out those results so quickly, there is zero excuses for any of these other states. Maybe some counties here and there, but like entire states taking 2 weeks. That is the craziest thing I have ever heard.
It creates cynicism, and I think it's pretty important to get to something that's more simple and predictable. If people actually, everybody's talking all the time now about defending democracy, but if the elections go on this long and we don't know what the results are, and you're on the losing side of that, you're naturally going to think that there were shenanigans. And I think it's a mistake if you actually they say the word democracy in almost religious tones, and if you actually believe that, you should be able to count the way we did when I was a kid. We knew who won on election day. That's what happened.
Right.
Yeah. So I am definitely disappointed in Florida, as they had cannabis legalization on the ballot this year, and they needed a 60% of the vote to pass it. Both of their ballot measures got over half the vote. Neither of them look like they're going to hit the 60%. And so cannabis is going to stay illegal in the state of Florida, which is just been ridiculous to watch.
Yeah.
The way that the Republicans were campaigning against cannabis in Florida was some of the worst I've ever seen. Like DeSantis was going on rants in ads about how bad it smells, and like we can't legalize it because it smells bad, and using taxpayer money to do it. On top of that, North and South Dakota were both also had it on the ballot, and both of them look like they're going to be a no. But Nebraska is going to likely be the next addition to the Mile High states. So at least we got one.
Interesting.
Well, thank God there's no cannabis smoked in South Beach, because that would be the end of everything.
Right. Because we all know that's never happened.
It's never happened because it's against the law.
Yeah. Yeah.
That he really said that though?
Yes.
Because it smells bad.
Yep.
Wow. What
I don't know. Since long before I was a smoker, I really enjoyed the smell. I'm also one of those kids that like the smell of gas. Like I'm just a weirdo. So I don't know. I've always liked the smell. I've never really had an aversion to it. But yeah, this map is starting to look wild. I definitely, if I had to gun to my head make a prediction, I don't think it would have been Trump. I luckily didn't make a prediction, and so here we are. But the only prediction I did make was that Trump wins PA.
Do we know what the Vegas markets are saying? Have you pulled those up?
Well, interestingly, the New York Times has Trump at 91% right now. And I don't know what the Vegas market is doing, but it's again, people can read all sorts of stories into why Kamala lost and Trump won, but I think ultimately it's the economy and inflation and the personal pain. It's a personal pain that working class families are feeling, and that's sort of the iron law of presidential campaigns. And she was unable to shed responsibility for those policies, and I think fairly she owned those policies, but it'll be interesting to see if that holds true. It's I haven't looked in a while, but it was almost an iron law of presidential elections that if economic growth and personal purchasing power sucked, the incumbent lost. So I think that's the story tonight. And the other, I'll repeat something I said earlier. And the other story, which is perhaps more interesting to libertarians, is the various anti-authoritarians under Maha or the New Resistance that have come on board and embraced Trump's campaign, but in hopes that they can push their agenda forward. And I wrote up a list earlier, and I want to share it before I go. Just again, sort of a white pill idea, but imagine Tulsi Gabbard as the head of the Department of Defense. Vivek Ramaswamy has been floated as the head of Homeland Security. Mike Lee could become the head of FBI or get on the Supreme Court. Does RFK get the CIA? Wouldn't that be interesting? Or maybe he gets the FDA. Thomas Massey has been floated by Nicole Shanahan and others as Department of Agriculture, where he's going to decentralize all these centralized cartels that keep us from having access to healthy food. Jay Bhattacharya has been floated as the new head of Health and Human Services. And of course, Elon and Ron Paul coming together to cut out government inefficiency. Now, I realize government inefficiency has generally been sort of this bullshit term where people just sort of trim around the edges of the Titanic as it goes straight into the iceberg. But I would like to do to the federal government what Elon did to Twitter. And I think it was, what was it, 2/3, maybe 70, 80% of the staff that he cut. I mean, that'd be a good start. I'll go with that. And I think, Trump doesn't necessarily believe any of those things, but he knows how he got there, and he trusts people that helped him get there. And I think that I realize not all of that's going to happen. Maybe none of it's going to happen. Maybe he won't free Ross. I think he almost has to, because he said thousands of times now, free on day one. And that is not just about Ross, who 100% deserves to be freed for what they did to him, and not, from my point of view, didn't even commit any crimes. But I think it's a much bigger thing because he was the canary in the coal mine. He was being made an example of by the people that are afraid of the entire crypto universe. And so freeing Ross has Trump choosing sides in that fight. And he went to the crypto bros and said, I'm going to oppose central bank digital currency. So there's a lot of things that we could be pushing on the day after the election, should Trump win, that I think are tremendous opportunities for libertarians.
Right. And I think that's the perfect opportunity. I mean, just the very fact that he's listening to any of us is huge. I mean, I don't think we have to like him or dislike him, like whatever the thing is. Like, he's still one of the most prominent people in the world right now, whether we like it or not. And I mean, he's curious what we have to say. That's huge. It's like, and who knows if we'll ever get an opportunity like this again. So let's not squander it.
Totally.
True that. So we've got our on the ground reporter live from Dallas, Texas, coming on back in the VIP suite for the Blood of Tyrants after party. Welcome back, Kate.
Hey, David.
Hold on.
Oh, Tom.
Hey! All right, y'all. All right, this is our VIP suite, Blood of Tyrants VIP suite, the after party. All the very important people are here. As you can see, we got ours. What's up, David? Hi, David. We got Trey. We got all of our very, very special people. And they're all drinking Blood of Tyrants. So if you go to drinkbloodofTyrants.com, you too can drink the Blood of Tyrants. So I just want to tell all of you that we have enjoyed being here with you, keeping you up to date, having you with us at the party. And as the numbers are coming in, just remember, we're having fun, but we're having fun because all these people here have put the fight in this election, and they deserve all the praise here. All these people are donors, they are staff, they are candidates, they are officers in parties, and they deserve all your praise. They deserve all the thanks. And I just want to say thank you, David, for inviting me and inviting us on so everybody can have a taste of what this has been about. So one more time, tell David bye.
Thank you so much, Kate. You guys have some fun for us. And
wait. Hold on.
That's the naked without my hat.
I know. Here's Dan Berman, my business partner and dear friend.
oh my God, I love that tuxedo.
Wait,
That's awesome.
Is that a bed? Are you setting me up? Is that a bed?
I mean, you wouldn't. All right, David. I'm gonna let you go because everyone here is a little bit toe up. Okay. So, there's Shay. And again, have a good time. Matt, it's good to see you. I miss you.
Yeah,
And
good to see you.
we're going to sign off here so we can all have a good time. There's Kelsey. All right, y'all. I can't hear you, but I know you can hear me. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. And if anybody wants to check out our wonderful sponsors, like she said, it's bloodoftyrants.wine or drinkbloodoftyrants.com. Use promo code FSM to get 10% off your first order. Grab some Merlot, some Pinot Grigio, grab some energy drinks for the morning after, and help support some awesome causes and activists in the liberty movement. Along with it, there's a link in the description. If most of the streams, depending on where you're watching this, if you're not watching this on Civil or Rumble, you're missing out because those are the best. YouTube sucks. Fuck YouTube. But yeah, go check out Blood of Tyrants I'm glad we were able to have at least a little bit of being there in Dallas. That's fun. Let's.
Yeah, that looks like a fun party.
Right. I'm a little bit jealous. I almost went down there, and then I wouldn't have been able to logistically make it work, but also I wanted to do this. So I got asked in the comments what happens if there's a tie, because depending on where we go from here, there actually is the possibility of 269, and that means that the House decides it, which is why that's what I had up over here, where the Republicans are also winning so far, but we'll see. So a contingent election is, I said this at the beginning of the stream with Brakey, that a contingent election is my preferred outcome of tonight. That would be hilarious to me. I would love that.
Oh, I would like to see the raging on both sides.
Right.
I think that would be hilarious. So I'd have to agree with you on that.
And to your points a few moments ago, Matt, I think that there's this tiny little chance that a contingent election happens, and the House doesn't have to pick any of the candidates to actually be the president. They could try to make some sort of compromise ticket happen where it's Tulsi and Walls or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just some weird thing to kind of just make it go by quickly, that it's neither of the candidates everybody hates, and it's one of the kind of close but not quite them people that that people might be able to actually stomach. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That was the whole Lars Mapstead strategy, was to get an electoral college vote and be a broker in that, and see if we couldn't do something with that. But I don't know. It's obviously statistically unlikely, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So before we wrap things up, or whatever you have planned, David, what likely chance do either of you see any genuine shenanigans happening?
I've
more than normal.
Other than normal, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
yeah, more so than normal.
I mean, obviously, the introduction of digital voting, I think, increases the possibility of shenanigans. And I for one, like I don't know anything about this. I have friends that very much believe and understand technology and believe that there are shenanigans that have been happening. But the bottom line is, you really want either candidate to win by enough so that people actually trust the result of the election. And that's been harder and harder to accomplish. And I mean, if this thing comes down to one electoral college vote, or, late night, or a week from now, more votes coming in, it's gonna be a disaster if you want people to believe that the right guy won. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I do genuinely believe that there was a lot more shenanigans in 2020 than most people would probably know. But like, regardless of what happened, Biden won because he was the guy sitting in the chair at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So whether they stole it or whether, it was genuine, although I do find 81 million people hard to believe, doesn't mean it's impossible. But him getting more votes than Obama just seems ridiculous to me. So,
and I would say, and I never name names, and to our spirit of libertarian unity, I never criticize fellow libertarians, but but the idea that we should have blind faith in the electoral voting process would have to be applied to the post office, and it would have to be applied to Medicare and Medicaid and all of these programs that we know are structurally horrible. So, like, well, of course, it's a corruptible system, and we should assume that corruption happens. And my sense is that Republicans are perhaps better armed this time to lawyer up and fight back and see what that is. Obviously, we libertarians don't have any resources, so we're not going to be lawyering. But I made the bold prediction at the beginning of this stream that it's either going to be a Republican or a Democrat that wins this election, because that's how courageous I am. I'm willing to put my neck out.
That is a bold statement.
It's
real,
huge.
Real hot take.
Huge if true. I gotta bug out, guys. I'm gonna let you guys wrap up. It's been an honor, and we'll see how late we have to stay up tonight to find out what happens.
Hopefully,
thank you so much for coming on, Matt.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you.
Yep.
Yeah, so we are, I'm gonna throw this back. Boom. We are still at 230, 205. She's pulling ahead in Minnesota. It's really gonna come down to, like always, like Pennsylvania, Michigan. Like which way do these two go? If he wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, it's obviously over.
Right.
Biden won all three of those. And so this is the 2020 map. Oh, wait. This is the wrong layout. Boom. There we go. Actually, he won every battleground state last time around.
Right.
That's why it was way more decisive than I remember it being. Because last year I checked out about maybe a half an hour after this, and I was like, oh, okay, it looks like Trump won the election. And went to sleep.
Yep. I mean, that's how most people remember it. I stayed up the entire night, and I saw the strange things happen when they started pouring in, when they started, announcing Michigan stopping their count, which was practically unheard of. I believe it's happened like 1 or 2 times in our nation's history, and they were very, very specific incidents, and this was not that. So I don't know. I mean, there were just so many weird things, and there was like 0 official investigations. And I think it's like, if you have the truth on your side, there's obviously nothing to hide. So why wouldn't you just investigate it and shut up the people you want to shut up?
Right.
Like that's what bothered me, I think, the most about 2020 was like, okay, like I'm willing to accept the fact that the Democrats won fair and square. Well, then show the Republicans that. Like, it's like, if you're so confident, just do it.
The whole most secure election in history line was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's just no legitimacy to that claim. There's no way that the first year that we roll out mass mail-in and early voting in states that have never tried to do that before, there's no way. There's absolutely no way it's the most secure election in our lifetime. Right. And we've had previous elections that were so close that it could be accused of being rigged, like Bush Gore. Obviously is comes to the forefront of your mind when you're thinking about that kind of stuff. And you can't tell me that 2020 was better than Bush Gore.
Right.
It was clearly more fraud happened there. It went the other way as far as the end result, but one could argue that did it really? Because it's is Bush and Biden really that different?
I mean, honestly, what it seems like to me that they were trying to pull off an LBJ election this go around. So, you know, it I don't know. It doesn't seem likely to me because there was so much on the line for Democrats. It's like there's motive, 100% motive. And I mean, ever since then, it has pulled into question like election integrity on state levels, county levels, like it's thrown the whole country into like mayhem as far as election integrity. Like, I don't think even that term itself was even in our lexicon the way that it is before 2020, So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I can say like for sure it wasn't because I was on the campaign trail with Tulsi Gabbard, where it was one of her main platform planks was verified, like your voter verified, like paper receipts for every like as like a federal kind of regulation, and she had a whole like platform plank on how to fix the possible to rig election system.
Right.
And the people at our events cared about that kind of stuff, and but there's a reason she did libertarian numbers. Like, clearly it was not something that too many people cared about, and it definitely wasn't the issue that got people in the door. It was her supposedly anti-war stance, or her other various kind of centrist stances or super progressive stances that set her apart from the rest of the pack.
Well, and her roasting Kamala, I'm sure helped boost numbers.
Oh yeah. I was doing a debate watch party in New York City that I as the Manhattan Libertarian Party events director, like co-hosted with the New York City Neoliberal Club.
Yeah.
Which was super fun. So much diversity of thought in the room. There was probably about 45 of us total, sitting in a hookah bar in the Lower East Side of Manhattan, watching this. And, it was very different sets of cheers and jeers and different things. And that was one of the only moments where the entire fucking room just erupted. In unison, because fuck that bitch.
Yeah,
that's one thing we could all agree on.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense too because Kamala is just unlikable, right? Like nobody likes her. I've talked to a couple of genuine supporters, not just people who hate Trump, but like people who genuinely support her, and even they have said things without being so blunt that she's not the most likable person. And it's like, and this is coming from genuine supporters, so it's like, and of course that's anecdotal, but it's just, I find it interesting that even they can see it.
Yeah, and I mean, most of them held their nose to vote for Biden too, and and then everyone is going to turn around tomorrow if Trump wins and be like, what the fuck happened? When did our country become racist? Blah, 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 blah. Like, it's not any of that. You guys just pick terrible fucking candidates. Like, any other person could have beat Trump if we're being real. Like, most of the other people who were talked about in the Democratic Party as being possible replacements if Biden dropped, if it wasn't just the swap in for Harris, all of them would have, at least this would be a lot closer. It would be a way more of a nail biter, but most likely would
except
have
for
pulled out the
Hillary
W.
Clinton. If they dropped Hillary in again, I mean,
Okay,
she is so despised, like even more than Kamala. So, but yeah, outside of her, I agree, it would have been a lot closer. And
like
honestly,
Cuomo, a Newsom, a Whitmer, some of those, like, would have creamed it. My biggest and loudest prediction of the cycle that I've been saying since the beginning, I think might end up being proven false, because I said the party that goes younger first wins. Like whoever drops the Biden versus Trump bullshit and goes, now we're going to pick a younger candidate. I said, like, they've got it. If it's Newsom, Trump, it's Newsom. If it's Biden, DeSantis gets it in the landslide. But they picked like the one candidate that makes that untrue by just putting Kamala in there. I genuinely thought they would figure something out to stop it from being Kamala, because they knew they were going to lose.
Yeah.
And then they did this dumb shit.
Yeah. And, you know, to me, and maybe this isn't correct, but it seems like it was purely like a financial decision, you know, based on all the donations, because a lot of people had donated to Biden-Harris campaign. And I know that there was talk about FEC laws, you know, stating that if they didn't choose Harris, then most, if not all, the donations would have to go back, and they would have to start from basically the very bottom all over again. So I think their hands were kind of tied, because it didn't seem like the DNC wanted her either. But then the opening statements at the DNC, like before any state had any statements of anything, whoever presided over their convention basically came out and just said, like, we are here to nominate Harris. Like, welcome to the convention. You know? And to me, like, what a slap in the face to be a delegate for the Democrats and then just have your decision made for you. Like,
right.
You know, I'd be pissed. I would be very, very pissed if I was a Democrat, because they just burned the whole party.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going through this, and I don't think that there's a way for Kamala to pull this out at this point. Because she would have to flip Michigan and PA to win.
Yeah.
From where we're at right now. And Wisconsin, because that's leaning his way.
Right.
At the moment. Yeah. Arizona.
And where was that? Was that PBS?
Yeah, PBS. I'm able to like play around with these. So the live results are this. Is where we're at the moment.
What's going on with Nebraska? Is it because they haven't finished counting, or?
They haven't called. They've called the state as a whole, but they haven't called either of the districts. But it's likely going to go one and one. It'll look like
that's right. I forgot Nebraska's split up that weird way.
Like that.
I
don't remember which one's which. But we can look at Nebraska specifically, and yeah, I don't see a world where Trump doesn't take the whole thing. This is way closer than I was expecting it to be in District 1. She wins District 2 because that's mostly Omaha down into Lincoln, and then landslide because that's the country, like western side of the state. But yeah, this is still a toss-up.
48-5 and 50. Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but they did call it for Fisher over Dan Osborne. So we will not have an independent in the United States Senate, or not a real one at least.
Yeah.
Damn, that sucks. That was like the one piece of like solid hope I had for this election, other than this one, which really did not. Erica Kalinich is one of the best libertarian candidates I've seen in a very, very long time, but 2.9% is not anything close to what I was hoping to see out of West Virginia.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party, they're kind of imploded, but it looks like they're still going to be able to maintain relevancy.
See, I don't even have results for my race. they haven't even updated for the last 5 hours. So I don't even know what's going on there. Probably won't have results for that until sometime tomorrow. I think it was the same last cycle as well. Well, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. I'm going to look up one more race real quick that I haven't pulled up the results for yet and see what's going on with Michael White in Arkansas.
Somebody just said on X, here's how Charlie Brown can still kick the football.
I love it. Bernie can still win, guys.
Yeah.
If we get a contingent election, then they can put Bernie in. There we go.
Could you imagine the upset?
Oh my gosh. It'd be beautiful. See, that's what I'm saying. Like the possibilities are endless if we get a tie. Like it's so much. It'll be so much better for the news, for everything.
Right.
So why not? Like if it's rigged, why not rig it the best, most like crazy way of doing it?
Yeah, I mean, might as well go, But I think that's kind of what they did in 2020 too, because they just kind of threw everything at the wall and said, let's see what sticks. And I think it genuinely surprised the establishment as well. They didn't quite expect things to work out the way that it did, but they were like, oh, like we caught the football, we're running with it now. And boy, did they.
Yeah. And then I don't know, with like January 6th and some of the other fallout there and the way that they were able to, like in your words, run away with the like the anti-domestic terrorism legislation and stuff like that.
Right.
All right, so we do have some votes. It's not called yet, but it's looking pretty decisive. Michael White pulling out 34% of the vote, which is not bad. But again, not what I was hoping for. I wasn't expecting Liberty to win tonight, but I don't know.
Right.
I was at least hoping for a little bit.
All I can say is that because it does look like Trump's going to win, I really do hope that like he even just keeps a third of his promises, like freeing Ross. That would just be such a massive win. And personally, I don't care who does it. I don't care how it happens, but him and his entire family just couldn't deserve anything better, And, I think that's one thing that really like bothers me about libertarians is like, and of course the right libertarians are guilty of this as well, but I predominantly see it with the more left-leaning libertarians. It's more of the whole, like, yes, we want this, like we want this liberty or whatever, not just Ross, but just pick anything in general, but it needs to be done by the right person. And it's like, I myself, I don't care who does it. I don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat that does it. I just want it done.
Yeah.
I want the state smaller. I want there to be less spending. I want there to be actual growth of liberty. And I don't really care how we get there.
Yeah, I am definitely with you on that. I don't care who does the thing. I just want to see the thing get done. That's why I have coalesced with various people that most libertarians wouldn't give the time of day to, because they're gonna help me do the thing. I need to do the
Right,
thing. These people, the commies, want to do the thing too. Let's do the
right,
thing together.
right.
And yeah, so many people. I've definitely seen it. Honestly, pretty even as far as the right versus left hating the other side of it. But I also, I don't work in New York City, or worked in New York City towards the beginning of my political career, and so I was coalescing with the left a lot more and getting shit on from the right. Working with Tulsi Gabbard got me a lot of hate, which is really hilarious now because a lot of them are trying to be like, "Hey, look, Tulsi endorsed Trump. You should vote for Trump."
Right.
Like, you're the
Right.
same people that called me a fucking commie bastard for working on her campaign just 4 years ago. So
Yeah.
no thanks.
Well, that doesn't matter though. That was
Right.
4 years ago, David.
Right. That was like a million different news cycles ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, it's interesting because like we have a candidate here in the state of Utah. His name's Phil Lyman, and he was running for governor. And he genuinely should be on the ballot, and our incumbent governor actually should not. There was all sorts of crazy corruption at the state level, as far as not meeting signature requirements and all this stuff. And as much as I think a lot of it's nonsense, what's fair for one is fair for all. And our incumbent governor did not meet the state law requirements. So he shouldn't be on the ballot, but he is. And the candidate who is now, he was campaigning as a write-in. I think he has a little bit too much ego wrapped up in this race at this point, because we tried to entice him and all of his camp to come over to the libertarian side because we match, platform, plank for plank, like 98.5%, there's maybe like one or two small issues, which are never going to come up in the first place, that we disagree on. And it's not really important. And it's like, well, do you guys want to send a message to the establishment? Do you actually want to buck the system and, let the Utah GOP establishment know that you're upset? I mean, the Utah GOP, what's interesting is they don't listen to the voters. They don't care. Like, the establishment does what it wants. And if you agree with the establishment, then great, wonderful. But if you don't, they cast you aside. And the Utah GOP voters have started figuring that out, but yet they're still backing the GOP for some reason. And I just don't understand. And so we tried to entice them to come over to the libertarian side and said, hey, look, just throw your support behind us because we're already there. We're already fighting the same fight. You guys got screwed. Our candidate didn't get screwed. And they just said no. And they have the right to do that. But I think it's poor execution, and it just seems like there's too much ego wrapped up in it. It's not about the actual principle of growing liberty. It's more of like, I have to win now.
Yeah, there is a lot of that in politics, and it's really sad to see. But I don't know. So many people throughout tonight have said no black pills allowed. I'm trying to stick to that, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't see much hope in politicians just as a whole.
Right.
Somebody was asking me. I was getting into it on Twitter today with a good friend. I was asking me, if Trump wins and he does all these things, should libertarians trust him? Then no. Praise what he does, maybe support the things that he's doing, coalition with this, but no, you don't trust a politician.
Right.
You don't trust anyone who's got that much money, that much power, and will do anything to get more of it. You just don't trust them. I didn't trust Tulsi when I worked for her. I don't trust Chase, if we're being honest. If he actually won, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like I trust him most of the way, but I don't know. There's that little thought in the back of my head. I don't know what he would do.
Well, he's still a politician if you want,
Right.
So, and I agree with you. I do genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that black pills are a psyop, and they're meant to spread despair. So we give up before we even have a chance to rebel or resist at all. And so I do agree with that whole black pill thing. Like, keep the black pills away, because there is so much more to be white pilled about, especially at this moment. But I think even not trusting the politicians, I think that's actually a white pilling thing, in my opinion, because more and more people are on it. I mean, the largest voting base are all the non-voters, right? And so the double-edged sword to that is that until everyone finally wakes up to whatever, then what that means is a smaller and smaller number of people are going to be deciding the elections. And so that's going to be bad in the short term, but I think in the long term, it's ultimately going to work out for liberty.
Amen to that. Let's hope. Fingers crossed. I'm gonna choose to believe you. I believe in that, and I'm definitely I'm gonna choose to take the white pill of maybe Trump will come through on some of the stuff he's promised.
Right.
But we are going on about 3.5 hours into this stream. So we are going to wrap up the live stream here in a little bit and move it on over to the Discord after party in the FSM Discord for anybody that wants to come see where this goes. See if what we're saying is going to pan out, or if there's going to be some weird, crazy upsets. That link is in the description if you're watching on Civil or Rumble or YouTube or Facebook. If you're not watching on any of those, go find the page over there, like the video over there, and then click the link. But come on over to the after party. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on and hanging out. Always
anytime. Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun.
Thank you, and I will we'll have to have you back on the Fight for Liberty here pretty soon. Talk some more shenanigans, because it's always a great time.
Yeah, let me know anytime. I am always open for it.
All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in this wonderful, wonderful evening. Go check out all of our great guest hosts that we've had throughout the night. Check out Matt Kibbe and Free the People. They are some of the coolest fucking people in the Liberty movement. Brian McWilliams and the Lions of Liberty crew. Obviously, Jacob, who was just on here. Other Jacob, lesser Jacob, because he became a cop, so we don't like him as much. But definitely go check all of those people out. Again, big shout out to our sponsors, Blood of Tyrants. They were killing it down in Dallas and helping us keep the lights on here. So go grab a bottle of wine and maybe some energy drinks. We're all going to need them to fight in the civil war that's probably going to break out next week. And definitely, like I said, come on through to the after party. Click that link in the description. And then come on back to the next couple of streams. We've got some cool shit lined up with some of the candidates to talk about what they were doing and maybe what went wrong or went right. I've got Kristen Alexander, who is running Don Rainwater's campaign in Indiana, coming on here in the next couple of days. But yeah, definitely click the like, subscribe, go check us out on all the different platforms. And we will be back as soon as we can. But until then, keep up that fight.
This is FSM. This is FSM.